Chapter 51. It was almost time for school to end in the afternoon. Many students were coming in and out of the gate of Lonk University. They wore the school uniform of Lonk University and had the uniform school emblem of Lonk University on their chest. At this time, Zhang Chen, dressed in casual clothes, stood out in the crowd. "Young man, it's you again? You came pretty quickly. Mr. Peng has just called to give instructions. You can just go in and find him." The security guard's attitude was much better than the first time. Zhang Chen nodded, and since he was in a good mood, he also had a smile on his face. "Okay, thank you, sir." The old man scratched his head. Until Zhang Chen's figure disappeared from sight, only then did he come to his senses and started smiling foolishly. As expected of an outstanding graduate from Lonk University, he is so polite. "Hey! Which school are you from? Do you have proof?" Lonk University does not allow social personnel to enter and leave at will. The young man frowned and looked at the security guard, his temper flaring up. "Damn it! Why was that guy able to get in just now? Why couldn't I? Oh, I see. Did that guy go in through the back door? Just wait to be kicked out." The security guard stared at the BD in front of him with his eyes wide open. Especially since he had just finished communicating with a polite person like Zhang Chen, and now he was looking at the naughty young man with green hair in front of him. The feeling of disgust in my heart doubled. Comparing people makes you angry, and comparing goods makes you throw them away. He was not polite at all and directly pulled out the baton from his waist. Pointing at the young man, he said, "Are you going to leave or not? The stick in my hand has no eyes. If I hit you with one, you will lose a layer of skin. What? Are you ready to suffer physical pain?" Looking at the electric baton in front of him, which was still flashing with electricity, the young man subconsciously took a few steps back. I was scared. Even his speech became stuttering. You stinky security guard. Just wait. One day I will definitely expose you." Roll. The security guard took a step forward and saw the young man running even further away. He is an outstanding graduate of Lonk University, and he has Mr. Peng as a guarantor. "What kind of a jerk are you?" He muttered something, put away the electric baton and returned to his post. What was said was heard by several students passing by who were pulling scientific research materials in carts. They paused and exchanged glances. In my mind, I couldn't help but associate this person with Zhang Chen in the cafeteria that day. In a low voice, "Isn't it that graduate you are talking about?" "Maybe. Judging from the look of things, could it be that this senior brother has come over again?" "It sounds like that's right. It seems he even went to see Mr. Peng." Once these words came out, various thoughts and speculations emerged in the minds of several people. Everyone in Lonk University knows that Mr. Peng is not an ordinary person and has close ties with people in Lonk University and the military region. That kid isn't worried about not being able to beat Senior Wang Ming, so he wants to ask Elder Peng for help, right? Should we go tell Senior Wang Ming? Several people simultaneously turned their eyes to the leader. I saw a cunning look in that man's eyes. "Let's go. Go find Senior Wang Ming." Long University of Science and Technology Library. Mr. Peng was sitting in his management room. He put a pair of glasses on his nose and squinted as he read the document in his hands. Until I heard the door slowly open. Only then did he put the file away. "Now you are here, you are not slow at all." As for Elder Peng, since he was his father's teacher, Zhang Chen still regarded him as his elder. In front of elders, people will always automatically put away their independent aura and reveal their slightly childish side. Mr. Peng came to see me personally, how could I be slow for even a second? Don't you agree? Without the need for Peng Lao to let him go, Zhang Chen sat directly next to Peng Lao. Just as I was about to pick up the book that was turned upside down on the table, bang! Mr. Peng raised the ruler in his hand, and there was a crisp sound. Slapped on Zhang Chen's hand. The latter grinned, quickly withdrew his hand, and looked aggrieved. "Mr. Peng, you are too stingy. You won't even let me read a book." Old Peng looked at the half-grown boy in front of him. "The more heartache there is, the more resentment there is. If you still regard me as half your elder, tell me the truth now. Confess the rocket matter yourself." The joking expression on Zhang Chen's face slowly disappeared. Looking down at the toes, neither of them spoke. The air remained silent for a long time. When Zhang Chen raised his head again, he said seriously. "Mr. Peng, I really made that rocket." Seeing that old Peng opened his mouth, Zhang Chen continued, "It took me one night, by myself." Hiss. It's true that there's a difference between guessing it yourself and hearing it said by someone else. After these words came out, Mr. Peng couldn't help but take a breath. Nothing like what happened last time at Jianglin Technology. He was unwilling to believe it either. This Zhang Chen kid was still a little brat running around his disciple Zhang Xianzi a few years ago. It's only been a few years, one person, one night, building a rocket. Liquid nitrogen and methane function, recyclable. Combined with the introduction in the document he just saw, 8K satellite video images can clearly see the pores on a person's face. He simply couldn't imagine that all of this technology came from Zhang Chen's hands. You. Boom boom boom. Before Mr. Peng could say anything else, the door was knocked again. He regained his composure and tried to stay calm. "Come in." Whoosh. 5 people squeezed in one after another. Zhang Chen, the leader, recognized him at a glance. He was the guy who challenged him in the cafeteria. It seems his name is Wang Ming. After several people came in, they stared at each other, and no one spoke first. Looking at Zhang Chen quietly, the hostility in his eyes could not be ignored. Zhang Chen subconsciously touched his nose and thought, how could I have offended them? This look seemed to want to kill me on the spot. Brother, do you still remember our challenge? Zhang Chen was stunned. He really had forgotten. But he still said, of course I remember. Isn't it time yet? Wang Ming sneered and took a step closer to Zhang Chen. It's not expired yet, but for the sake of fairness in the competition, some people should not do those unpresentable tricks. Old Pang frowned and looked at the boy. Is he afraid he has some serious illness? Is it necessary to do anything tricky for someone at this level? Zhang Chen saw that they were not here with good intentions, and the corners of his mouth curved up. I am alone against your team, and I haven't even said it's unfair. What are you barking about? You. Wang Ming's face turned red instantly as his soft spot was touched. If you can't do it, don't make excuses. That will really bring shame to Lonq University. Hey. We call you our senior brother because of Master Pang, don't be ungrateful. Since you are so amazing, I would like to ask you how far along your rocket model is. Zhang Chen raised his eyebrows and looked over, then slowly folded his arms. We haven't started yet. Chapter 52. Once these words came out, Wang Ming and his group couldn't help but look towards Zhang Chen. The expression on his face is even more intriguing. Haha, you haven't started yet? 2 days have already passed. Even 1 minute of making a rocket model is extremely precious. Brother, can you complete the model on time? Puff. The people who came with Wang Ming couldn't help but laugh out loud. I'm afraid we can only come up with a model frame. Looking at a room full of brainless students, Mr. Pang's brows were instantly twisted into a knot that could not be smoothed over. These idiots are hopelessly stupid. Anyway, the time has not come yet. Are you guys too free? If you think you have enough time, would you like me to apply to the school to invite you to come to the library as volunteers? Hearing the sound, the smugness on Wang Ming and his companions' faces disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The students around him responded quickly, no, there is no need to trouble Mr. Pang. We have already made arrangements for making rocket models. Shut up. You're such a disgrace. Wang Ming shouted in a low voice, stopping them from continuing. Even if he encountered many difficulties in the process of making the rocket model, he did not want to show it in front of Zhang Chen. His eyes suddenly became somewhat fierce. Brother Zhang, since you are confident, we won't say much. We just hope that you will remember not to rely on external forces in order to defeat us. When he said this, Zhang Chen also noticed that his eyes were cast towards old Pang standing beside him. But Zhang Chen didn't care. After all, he didn't plan to ask anyone for help. It's natural. When Wang Ming and his companions came out of the library, he suddenly realized, aren't we here to get evidence of Zhang Chen asking Elder Pang for help? Damn. I got tricked by this kid. Then what should we do now? If we go in again, we will definitely be spotted by Mr. Pang. Wang Ming, surrounded by the crowd in the center, stood at the front. He nodded slightly and glanced at the fellow students around him. A hint of disgust flashed across his eyes. Okay, what's the point of talking about this now? You guys go back first, I'm going to go out for a while. Senior, are you going to ask for help? Wang Ming turned around abruptly and looked towards the person who was speaking, following the source of the voice. Do I need to report to you about what I do? The man immediately lowered his head, looking extremely guilty. Especially after seeing Wang Ming's sharp eyes, they were so scared that they couldn't say anything. This feeling was barely relieved until Wang Ming left. Several people secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Let's go. The assembly task assigned to us by the senior has not been completed yet. Library management room. After driving those guys away, Mr. Pang sighed deeply. I don't know how they will react after they know your strength. Zhang Chen chuckled and lowered his head to look at the book on the table. I didn't plan to show off my abilities in front of them. After all, we are all college students with endless possibilities in the future. If we hit them too hard, won't they lose confidence in themselves in the future? Old Pang was stunned. He didn't expect Zhang Chen to say that. If this had happened in the past, the young man is arrogant, and as long as he has the strength, he will choose to defeat the enemy with one blow. It seemed like he had thought of something again. Mr. Pang stood up, picked up the shirt hanging on the chair, and hung it on his forearm. Let's go. I'll take you somewhere. Where? Don't ask, just follow me. Before leaving, he locked the document that he had not finished reading in his small safe like a treasure. Half an hour later, 2 people in a bicycle stopped in front of a building that looked extremely solemn. On the big sign at the door, inlaid with several large characters in gold-plated ink, Longwo Scientific Research Institute. On both sides stood guards holding guns. Just now, he was sitting in the back seat and didn't see the road ahead clearly. I was just thinking about where Mr. Pang would take me. Standing in front of the gate of Lonq Institute, Zhang Chen had dreamed of this scene. Although he is now a specially invited tutor at Lonq Academy, he is not ready to come here yet. Mr. Pang, why did you bring me here? When saying this, Zhang Chen could hardly find his own voice. Old Pang didn't say anything. After parking the car on the side, he took Zhang Chen directly towards the door. A hand was scooping something out of his pocket. A small square notebook was handed over. The next second, the 2 guards stood up straight, saluted, and shouted, Colonel Pang. Zhang Chen on the side couldn't help but take a breath. He suddenly turned around and looked at Mr. Pang beside him, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, Mr. Pang, he is actually a colonel? Then why is he not in the military district, but in Lonk University, and he is my father's teacher? 1 hour, too many questions popped up in his mind. I opened my mouth, but didn't know where to start. He had a smooth journey. He took Zhang Chen directly to a building in the corner of Lonk Institute. That building looked very different from the other buildings in Lonk Institute. From the outside, it looks like a silvery glow, more like a layer of armor. In addition, there was no special guard guarding the door, which made Zhang Chen feel a little confused. Pang Lao calmly walked to the door, and Zhang Chen quietly waited behind. From where he was, he could see nothing except Mr. Pang's back. After that, only a long beep sound was heard. Authentication passed, please pass. Next, the door in front of me slowly opened. Mr. Pang realized that the person behind him did not move, and could not help but look back. Xiao Chen, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and follow me. Ah. Oh. Enter this building. Zhang Chen suppressed his curiosity and kept walking with his eyes fixed forward. As far as I could see, the furnishings were just like those of an ordinary first-floor lobby. It even looks several times more ordinary than the lobby of his office building. This building is also called the Lonk Institute Experimental Building. Mr. Pang, who was walking in front, deliberately slowed down his pace and said casually. However, to Zhang Chen's ears, it sounded like an introduction. Buzz. A door of the wall caved in, then moved to both sides and opened. Some dazzling light shot out from there. Zhang Chen subconsciously stretched out his hand to block the strong light. After you get used to it, you can slowly let it go. Seeing the scene in front of him, Zhang Chen was shocked. The staff inside were wearing medium-length white coats and goggles on their faces. They stood at their respective positions, studying something. Until someone noticed their arrival. Mr. Pang? Why are you here? The person who spoke was a middle-aged man. He put down the tools in his hands and ran over. I have a surprise for you. Chapter 53. Oh? What's the surprise? He hadn't finished speaking yet and the smile was still on his face. However, when he saw Zhang Chen, who was a complete outsider to the Dragon Academy, the smile on his face suddenly disappeared, but he couldn't look gloomy in front of Mr. Pang. Is this a surprise? This is simply terrifying, isn't it? Mr. Pang, what is going on? You know the rules of the Dragon Academy, please don't scare me. Mr. Pang naturally knew what the other party meant. But he just smiled and didn't answer. Instead, he turned and looked at Zhang Chen. Pull him forward a few steps. Xiao Chen, let me introduce you to this person, the building manager of the Dragon Science Institute's experimental building, Colonel Zhou Hongbin. Hello, Colonel Zhou, I am Zhang Chen. One of your future colleagues. After saying this, he extended his hand to the other party with a sincere smile and honest eyes. Zhou Hongbin never thought that Mr. Pang would make things difficult for him this time. With so many colleagues watching behind him, he felt it was wrong to extend his hand or not. If you are not careful, no matter what decision you make, if you hesitate for 1 second longer, you may end up in a difficult situation. Zhou Hongbin, it's fine if Mr. Pang comes in, but you must not let that outsider in. A man with the same medal on his chest as Zhou Hongbin walked slowly towards him. With an ambiguous smile on his face, he looked Zhang Chen up and down. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Mr. Pang, isn't it enough to have suffered such a loss once? Why don't you learn your lesson? Tell me, if you hadn't insisted on doing it yourself, how could you have been removed from the position of leader? Lu Chuan, if you don't want the mouth, you can donate it, or I can help you get rid of it. Mr. Pang's voice was so low that one could hardly hear any change in it, and the aura around him was also released. His sharp eyes shot straight at Lu Chuan. The latter's body trembled slightly, and goosebumps appeared on his skin. Half of his body inadvertently moved behind Zhou Hongbin. The momentum of the speech was instantly weakened. The Dragon Academy also has its own rules. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. After hearing this, Mr. Pang was not angry. At this moment, I glanced inadvertently at the laboratory and saw that the plate was marked with research related to liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. It's a delight. This is really like handing over the pillow when you feel sleepy. Wasn't he just worrying about how to explain himself? Now there is a most direct hint in front of you. He coughed twice and looked at Zhou Hongbin and Lu Chuan seriously. You should all know about the reusable rocket powered by liquid nitrogen and methane that has been online for the past 2 days, right? The two nodded in confusion. Zhou Hongbin was the first to explain. I know that the Lonk Institute bought one from a company a few days ago. A group of researchers were unable to come up with any results in the past 2 days, and now they have thrown this problem to us. After saying this, Zhou Hongbin spread his hands helplessly. He even felt that after taking over the liquid nitrogen methane rocket in his laboratory building, his hair fell out at a rate almost 5 times faster than before. Hearing this, old Pang subconsciously turned his gaze to Zhang Chen behind him. Isn't that just perfect? A euro, maybe the surprise I brought today can help you. Everyone was confused after hearing this. Colonel Zhou, you are not going to receive us at the door, are you? While Zhou Hongbin was stunned, Elder Pang took Zhang Chen directly past him and Lu Chuan. Xiao Chen, I brought you here without your consent, and you were blocked at the door for such a long time. I was really inconsiderate. It's okay, Mr. Pang. I'm going to come here in the next 2 days anyway, so today is a good time to finish what I need to do. Zhang Chen muttered something, his voice getting quieter as he continued. What did you say? Nothing. Lu Chuan just watched as Mr. Peng and the people outside the Long Institute walked straight past him. He whispered to Zhou Hongbin beside him, "Old Zhou, are you going to let them in openly like this? There's a liquid nitrogen methane rocket inside. If it leaks out, you and I will be primarily responsible. Then what can I do? Peng Lao has such a bad temper. If he wants to do something, can you and I stop him?" Zhou Hongbin's brows were tightly knitted into the shape of the Chinese character A. The experimental building of Long Institute, although located in the corner of Long Institute, looks inconspicuous. However, the status of the members in this experimental building in the Long Institute is on par with the core members of the Long Institute. Likewise, the responsibilities they need to bear are equally heavy. The two were silent for a long time. "Old Zhou, since it's hard for you to do this, then I'll be the bad guy." After saying that, Lu Chuan took out his cell phone and made a call. His eyes fixed on Zhang Chen's back, he sank, "Dean Su Zheng? I'm Lu Chuan from the laboratory building. Elder Peng brought an outsider here." On the other side, in the dean's office, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen are reporting their work to Su Zheng. Seeing the expression on the other side suddenly soften, instantly cooperated and quieted down. It wasn't until Su Zheng hung up the phone that he finally spoke. "Dean, what happened?" Su Zheng picked up the USB flash drive in front of him and handed it back to Chen Lao. Over at the laboratory building, Elder Peng brought back an outsider. Now he has ignored Lu Chuan and the others and went in. "I have to go over and take a look." That shouldn't be the case. Although Elder Peng has a stubborn temper, he is still clear about the rules of the Dragon Academy. Mr. Wang frowned and said, "Yes, is there any misunderstanding?" Su Zheng took a deep breath and said, "No matter what, we'll know when we go over there and take a look." He took a few steps outside. As if he had thought of something, he retreated again. "If Zhang Chen comes, please inform me. Based on his contribution to Dragon Country, I will give him the highest welcome ceremony. Also, apply for rewards for Comrade Zhang Chen based on his contribution. It's one thing if he doesn't mention it, but it's another if we give it or not. No matter what happens, we must not let the country's heroes feel disappointed, yes." After finishing all the instructions, only then did Su Zheng feel at ease to leave. Zhang Chen didn't know that Lu Chuan had already called Su Zheng. At this moment, I was following Mr. Peng's request and looking at the data analysis conclusions on the plate in front of me. Just looking at it, I couldn't help but frown. For liquid nitrogen and methane rocket engines, liquid oxygen is the combustion aid and methane is the propellant. The two are atomized into the combustion chamber in a certain ratio. Only after the components are burned can they release huge propulsion force. Besides that, its specific impulse cannot be analyzed according to the parameters of ordinary solid fuel rocket engines. The two are obviously different, okay. The specific gravity of liquid nitrogen methane rockets is obviously greater than that of solid fuel rocket engines. Chapter 54. The researcher nearby suddenly understood what was going on when he heard this. One of them even clapped his hands excitedly. "I was wondering why we couldn't analyze it clearly. It turns out that there is a problem here." Zhang Chen tilted his head and glanced at the person who was speaking. "If you think that this is the only problem, then you are totally wrong. This and this are the sources of the wrong analysis conclusion." As he spoke, Zhang Chen erased the data on the plate. Just picked up the pen to write on it again. It happened that Lu Chuan and Zhou Hongbin, who had just turned around after finishing their phone calls, saw it. "What are you doing? Stop!" The two shouted at the same time, and Zhang Chen stopped what he was doing. They watched as the data they had painstakingly analyzed for nearly 2 days was wiped out by Zhang Chen in just a few strokes. Even though old Peng was by his side now, the two of them could no longer hold back their anger. "Mr. Peng, we respect you as our senior and give you face, but you can't just let this kid do whatever he wants here, right? This is the result of 2 days of research by all of us. He easily made us go back to the time before liberation. An outsider not only broke into our Long Institute's laboratory building without permission, but also maliciously destroyed our research results. My dear young comrade, if I were you, I would have already begun to prepare for the military court." Mr. Peng opened his mouth and wanted to explain to them, but Lu Chuan didn't give him any chance. He directly continued what Zhou Hongbin said. He didn't really care about the reactions of these two people, but he was the one who brought Zhang Chen here. If these people made Zhang Chen angry, what worries him most now is that Zhang Chen will just give up and leave. Looking at Zhang Chen who was still calm in front of him, old Peng was unsure of his temper for a moment. Especially after this rocket incident, he clearly felt that the innocent and sunny boy had grown up long ago and turned into someone he didn't understand at all. Zhang Chen sucked the eraser in his hand back to its original position. "The marker on my fingertips turned and turned. I really don't know since when did carrying around piles of content become considered one's own research results. These contents are clearly marked in the Dragon Country Rocket Series Parameters Encyclopedia. Can they be moved here to become the parameters of the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket?" As he said this, Zhang Chen couldn't help but laugh out loud. If scientific research is really that simple, then I think Dragon Country has already become the #1 on Blue Planet. Although he also relied on the liquid nitrogen methane rocket made by the Yanhuang technology system, however, through his subsequent studies, he has now been able to fully master the relevant data, core technologies and manufacturing methods. "Oh, from what you said, you are a student who looks like a recent graduate. How can you know more about rockets than us professionals?" Lu Quan's eyes were full of confusion. On the surface, he was trying to feel superior to Zhang Chen because of his age. But in fact, it was just a way for himself and his colleagues to save face. But Zhang Chen did not intend to give them face. He stood there and waited for half a second. The marker in his hand was turned over and the cap was taken off. As a natural gas produced at low temperature and low pressure, liquid methane belongs to hydrogen oxidation synthesis and is a new type of solid hydrogenation emergency. Its high energy density, high combustion rate, and convenient storage make it a good choice for rocket launches. In addition, according to Longwo's previous research, the vacuum thrust of a 10-ton liquid methane engine has reached 100 kN. The conclusion I came up with a few days ago was about the research on the 200-ton full-flow regenerative combustion cycle liquid nitrogen methane engine mechanism. Its sea level thrust has reached 2,000 knots. After thinking for a while, Zhang Chen suddenly changed his tone. However, liquid nitrogen itself is not an excellent propellant. The specific impulse is seriously affected by the molecular weight of nitrogen. A large molecular weight of nitrogen will reduce the specific impulse. If we talk about the highest specific impulse, it should be liquid hydrogen. Hearing this, Lu Chuan was quite shocked. He was shocked that Zhang Chen, at such a young age, had such a thorough understanding of liquid nitrogen and methane. But I still couldn't help but refute, liquid nitrogen and methane powered rockets have already been built, and the data parameters are very impressive. So, if you say so, why not use liquid hydrogen instead of methane as propellant? The researcher nearby nodded, indicating his agreement with Lu Quan's point of view. However, their action could not help but shock Zhang Chen. He glanced towards them lightly. It seems to be saying, "Are you idiots?" Their eyes were fixed straight on themselves. Zhang Chen said helplessly, "Although liquid hydrogen is higher than heavy hydrocarbons, its density is low and its price is relatively high. Comparatively speaking, methane is 6 times denser than liquid hydrogen, and its cost is less than 1/30th of that of liquid hydrogen, so, do you think your question is technically sound?" Zhang Chen retracted his gaze and focused it back on the plate in front of him. As for all the researchers in the experimental building, including Lu Chuan, their faces turned red after being confronted by Zhang Chen, and they wished they could dig a crack in the ground and crawl into it right there and then. Some of them even couldn't help but talk in low voices. He does have a point. So what? He's just a young boy after all. I want to see what else he can say. Lu Chuan felt inexplicably upset when he heard this. Yes, that's what I was worried about just now. It's all just a coincidence. I just don't believe that he can tell me all the applications of liquid nitrogen and methane. After all, this is a technology that even Dragon Country has not yet mastered. Buzz buzz. The cell phone kept vibrating in his pocket. Lu Chuan retreated to a corner, read the letter carefully, and his eyes lit up. "Dean, I'll pick you up right away." While others were not paying attention, Lu Chuan smiled smugly. "Zhang Chen, wait until the dean comes in and see how he punishes you." Zhang Chen's explanation was not paused because of any incident in the laboratory. In the research room, the swish sound of Zhang Chen's writing became the accompaniment to his speech. It includes assessments of torch igniter hot tests, gas generator scaled parts hot tests, and the mastery of key technologies such as startup technology, stable combustion technology, cooling technology, and liquid methane engine ignition technology. Speaking of which, I will start my explanation from here. Listening to Zhang Chen talking in front of him, his hand wrote at the same speed. The empty plate that he had wiped had already been filled with various data again. Even Elder Peng, who knew Zhang Chen best at the scene, seemed to not recognize him. Tilting your head to observe other people's reactions, their eyes widened. Chapter 55. The researchers stood there in a daze. They exchanged glances with each other, staring at each other. His breathing stagnated, and he obviously didn't expect Zhang Chen to behave like this. Same, Zhou Hongbin and Peng Lao were both touched no less than anyone else. Especially Zhou Hongbin, who had no idea about Zhang Chen, moved quietly and approached old Peng. There was a hint of flattery in his voice. "Mr. Peng, where did you invite this kid from? How could he know so much about liquid nitrogen and methane rockets?" Looking at the data on the board, Zhang Chen wrote all of them based on his memory. During the period, they did not check their phones or look up information, they all saw it with their own eyes. If he wasn't so young, I would have suspected that he was the one who invented the liquid methane rocket. Hearing Zhou Hongbin's guess, Peng Lao couldn't help but turn his head to look over. Wow! It seems that there are some smart people among the members in their laboratory building. His eyes lit up, he opened his mouth, as if he thought of something, he closed his eyes again. Outside the building, the certification door slowly opened. Su Zheng was standing right in the middle of the door at this time. He had his hands behind his back and looked serious. "Dean, you are finally here. The young man that Mr. Peng brought back was really too much. It would have been fine if he had just gone in, but he also wiped out the data analysis that we worked so hard to write." While explaining, Lu Chuan led Su Zheng inside. During this journey, Su Zheng listened to his description and formed a very bad impression of this young man and Mr. Peng. He had even thought about whether he should call the guards to arrest him later or something. After walking a few steps and reaching the door of the laboratory, Su Zheng turned and looked at Lu Chuan. "Call the guards first and get ready in front of the building." When Lu Chuan heard the voice, his expression became excited. "Yes. I'll go now." Su Zheng was standing in front of the door doing pupil verification. Only a long beep was heard. The door opened to both sides. The scene in his memory of everyone greeting him did not appear before his eyes. All I could see was people forming a semicircle around the plate. The scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, and the only sound came from the person who was squeezed in the middle. The liquid nitrogen methane rocket engine uses mainly the gas generator cycle, expansion cycle, oxygen-enriched regenerative cycle, etc. I have marked them all in front of me, so I won't list them all here. Look at this again. The gas that drives the turbine is discharged into. Su Zheng narrowed his eyes slightly and moved forward, his ears almost erect. Suddenly, inexplicable memories began to invade his brain. Hiss. Why does this person's voice sound familiar? And this person was clearly explaining about liquid nitrogen methane rockets, what about full-flow regenerative cycle? Etc. This is the professional term that appeared on the USB flash drive that Mr. Wang and his friends brought back. A bold idea suddenly came to Su Zheng's mind. Because as far as he can remember, there is only one person who knows the technology related to liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. That's Zhang Chen. Thinking of this, Su Zheng's breathing became slightly rapid. His eyes gradually became clearer. Comrade, please make way. Go away, I can't see clearly, why should I let? The researcher hadn't finished speaking when he turned around and saw Su Zheng's face darken. His voice paused, trembling noticeably. Dean? When did you come? Once these words came out, the others turned their heads to look over. Of course, this also includes Zhang Chen who has already finished writing. After seeing Zhang Chen's face clearly, Su Zheng no longer cared about the researchers around him who greeted him. He raised his hand to stop everyone from talking and stepped forward. He had a kind and gentle smile on his face and tried his best to appear calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. Comrade Zhang Chen, why didn't you tell me earlier that you were coming? If I had known, I would have personally led the honor guard to pick you up at the gate. I inadvertently glanced at the densely packed data on the board, as well as the recyclable technical analysis written in the corner, which looked particularly conspicuous. Of course, when Zhang Chen moved, the others also saw it. Then, the pupils trembled. He wrote. Is it recyclable technology? Yes, it seems so. I just got my glasses yesterday and I can see very clearly. Well, he just talked about the application principle of liquid nitrogen and methane in engine technology, and now he's talking about recycling. The same question mark appeared in everyone's eyes. All we can say is that their hearts are now shocked like never before. After all, in Longguo, it will take at least a dozen years of effort to realize recycling technology. Even the United States, which boasts of being at the forefront of Blue Star technology, has only barely touched the edge of recycling technology. Thinking of this, they felt mixed emotions. The reason for joy is that if what Zhang Chen said is true, it proves that Longguo is leading in the application of recycling technology. Worry is the same. Zhang Chen's face is too young. They were worried and did not dare to fully believe what Zhang Chen said, even if he had sufficient theoretical data to support it. The researchers present, Su Zheng, and Elder Pang all stared at Zhang Chen. If a person's gaze could condense physical light, Zhang Chen would dare to believe that he would definitely become a sieve. Dean, I'm sorry that I came here so suddenly and didn't tell you in advance. Zhang Chen put the cap of the marker pen back on his hand and attached it to the sidebar of the section. He scratched his head and said embarrassedly. Someone in the crowd said, wait, didn't you notice the way the dean spoke to him just now? The guard of honor and the personal welcome, what kind of status does this person have to have? While they were talking with their heads down, Su Zheng had already walked past the crowd and stood in front of Zhang Chen. The USB drive you asked Mr. Chen to bring back must contain rocket technology that is unprecedented in the entire blue planet. I believe that with the support of this technology, Dragon Country's scientific and technological strength will surely leap into the leading position. Well, to show our gratitude, you should at least let us reimburse you something in addition to what we promised you before. A few words, when everyone heard this, their cognition was almost shattered. That's not necessary. It only takes a few techniques and it's not a big deal. After seeing Zhang Chen waving his hands repeatedly, he rejected Su Zheng's proposal. They couldn't believe their ears. My heart was trembling violently, my head turned to the plate for a while, the dense data and formulas stimulate their brains and eyes. Is that just a few simple techniques? Buzz. The door moved open again. Dean, the guards have gathered in front of the building. This kid is in our laboratory building, he will definitely not be able to escape. Chapter 56. The voice that suddenly appeared in the laboratory broke the silence at that moment. With obvious excitement, the owner of the voice seemed to be waiting for something impatiently. Everyone looked back at the same time. He turned back and looked at the dean standing next to Zhang Chen. No one spoke, their eyes just lingered quietly between the two of them, and the air around them became quiet again. How could the dean have thought that the outsider that Elder Pang brought with him, the one Lu Chuan mentioned, would actually be Zhang Chen? If he had known this earlier, such an embarrassing situation would not have happened. I noticed that there was something wrong with everyone's eyes. Especially Su Zheng's face almost sank. The smile on Lu Quan's face was a little stiff. Asked tentatively, Dean? Everyone is ready, so what should we do next? Fearing that Lu Chuan might say something that might irritate Zhang Chen, Su Zheng quickly spoke up to stop him. Should you? Why didn't you tell me earlier that the person who came was Comrade Zhang Chen? He winked and made eyes, frantically signaling Lu Chuan to stop talking nonsense. But now Lu Chuan was only thinking about punishing the outsider Zhang Chen, and had no idea what Su Zheng meant. Take 2 quick steps forward. He whispered in Su Zheng's ear. Dean, are you afraid of alerting the enemy? Don't worry, we have strength in numbers, how can we not deal with a little brat? This time, Lu Chuan simply made Su Zheng unable to do anything. Is this kid crazy today or what? Don't understand what people are saying? Su Zhengzheng opened his mouth, wanting to teach Lu Chuan a lesson. Unexpectedly, Zhang Chen, who was less than 2 steps away from him, slowly spoke. Dean, there may be some misunderstandings between me and this colleague. If it cannot be resolved, then It can be solved, it can definitely be solved, leave it to me, you can just stay here without worry. Seeing Su Zheng trying to keep Zhang Chen, Lu Chuan finally realized that things were not that simple. This young man, who looks to be in his 20s, may not be as simple as he appears. Before he could react, he saw the dean grabbing his clothes by the arm and dragging him to the position of the group of colleagues. Then he returned to Zhang Chen. Looking up at the researchers around him, Su Zheng spoke as he met their puzzled looks. Everyone is here today, and I have something extremely important to announce. His gaze finally fell on Mr. Peng and he smiled with an ambiguous meaning. Like the core members, haven't you been researching liquid nitrogen and methane rockets these days? You have no clue and don't know where to start. Aren't you curious about what kind of genius can be at the forefront of the world and develop such powerful scientific research equipment? After a pause, Su Zheng turned his head and looked at Zhang Chen. The latter responded with a faint smile, without much excitement on his face. Seeing this, Su Zheng nodded repeatedly. Yes, being as great as a mountain without being arrogant is what the Dragon Country youth should be like. Seeing the dean suddenly fall silent, he kept looking at Zhang Chen. The researchers below are not stupid, they have been able to work in the laboratory building of Long Institute for so many years. Each of them is like a human being. One is extremely bold, and it will make them feel that some unrealistic ideas are gradually emerging in their minds. Until Su Zheng raised his voice again and announced, don't you want to see the genius who made the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket? Now he is standing in front of you, and I didn't expect that some of you would want to drive him out. One sentence instantly caused 1,000 waves. Many researchers, including Zhou Hongbin and Lu Chuan, burst into laughter. No, what's going on? What does it mean? Zhou Hongbin was stunned and couldn't stop muttering. The sound was neither loud nor soft, but loud enough for people around to hear clearly. Suddenly he looked over to the side and saw Mr. Peng leaning against the wall, watching the show leisurely. Zhou Hongbin stepped forward and grabbed his arm. Excitedly, Mr. Peng, did you know his identity a long time ago? Did you know that the liquid nitrogen methane rocket was made by him? Peng Lao looked back at him like a fool and nodded. He clearly didn't say anything, but it seemed like he said something shocking. In comparison, Lu Chuan is even more outrageous. He took a few steps back, grabbing his hair with both hands. He is only in his 20s. How could he be the developer of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets? After thinking for a while, Zhou Hongbin finally came to his senses after barely digesting this heavy news. Take a deep breath. Shake your head helplessly. Accept the reality, Lu Chuan. Look at the data on that plate. If it were you or me, we wouldn't be able to write it down directly. We haven't even touched the edge of the technology yet. Data? What data? Lu Chuan moved his feet so that his sight could just see the contents on the board. With his brows furrowed, he subconsciously asked, when was this written? Did you write this? When he said the second half of the sentence, Lu Chuan felt that his voice was erratic. Yes. Compared with Zhang Chen's calmness, Lu Quan's embarrassment was completely exposed in front of others. There is also good news. Our school has specially invited Comrade Zhang Chen to become our Dragon Science Academy's special tutor. If you have any questions about liquid nitrogen and methane rockets, you can ask Comrade Zhang Chen when he comes to Long Academy. Guest tutor? Asking about time limits? Each of these words stimulated their brains, even Elder Peng, who had known the news before everyone else. Everyone was stunned. What guest tutor? Why haven't I heard this guy say that? Zhang Chen naturally noticed Peng Lao's scrutiny and felt a little embarrassed. Of course, Comrade Zhang Chen has not yet completed his identity registration, so it is understandable that you did not recognize him this time, but I hope the same thing won't happen a second time. Did you understand everything? Su Zheng's voice suddenly rose, and his sharp eyes swept over everyone present. Even though some people still find it difficult to accept it for a while, they still respond in unison with other colleagues. Yes. Got it. After hearing this, Su Zheng nodded with satisfaction. Comrade Zhang Chen, since you are here today, why don't you register your identity with me? Then I'll trouble you, Dean. Zhang Chen said softly with a smile on his face. Everyone's eyes were on the two of them until Su Zheng and Zhang Chen disappeared at the door of the laboratory. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Then, they surrounded Peng Lao. Mr. Peng, do you have anything to say to us? Mr. Peng did not respond, but turned his eyes and walked towards the plate. You don't have any data to write on this board. I'll help you clean it up. Hearing this, everyone rushed forward. No. Chapter 57. Among the researchers, someone went up and snatched the eraser from Mr. Peng's hand before he could hold it firmly. Some people, with the combined efforts of everyone, quickly pushed Peng Lao out of the safe area. Hurry, hurry. Has anyone seen my notebook? Here you go. Go away, I don't want your manuscript paper. Can't you just lower your head? We can't see anything here. The laboratory was in chaos. The only safe area was the 2-meter range extending from the plate as the center. Paper and notebooks intersect in the air, forming a perfect arc. After a wave of operations to transfer writing tools was completed, everyone sat neatly around the plate. The next scene that Mr. Peng saw was the entire process of the researchers looking up, lowering their heads, thinking, and taking notes. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. Just now, one by one, you were questioning my youth and my ability. What about now? I'm afraid I won't be able to record Zhang Chen's notes, tisk tisk tisk. Long Institute of Technology Data Archive Room. As soon as Su Zheng and Zhang Chen entered, they ran into Elder Wang and Elder Chen who were archiving the technical data inside. They had not expected Zhang Chen's arrival. The excitement on his face was evident. He put down the documents in his hand and ran towards Zhang Chen with great speed. When the administrator saw the scene, he was stunned. In his impression, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were the ones who paid the most attention to their personal dignity and image in Long Institute. In my lifetime, I was able to see completely different sides of Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. Person in charge, prepare the process for entering archive information into the database. After Su Zheng entered the management office, at a glance, I saw the administrator who was already stunned. He reminded loudly. Ah. Yes, yes. Archive information storage? Isn't it time to recruit researchers to the Dragon Academy today? Why would you let me prepare this in advance? Although I was doubtful, in addition, the process of storing archives is relatively complicated, but the orders issued by the dean himself must be implemented seriously. But later he discovered that the image of a group of researchers entering the management room to process the information storage is not there. He could no longer hold back his curiosity, and after checking the fingerprints on the device, he asked, Dean, I'm ready here. When will the researchers arrive? Su Zheng glanced at the administrator without saying anything, then turned to Zhang Chen and asked, Comrade Zhang Chen, are you ready? I'm ready. Zhang Chen put down the book he had just picked up and hadn't had time to look at it. The administrator looked at Zhang Chen, then tilted his head to look towards the door. He asked uncertainly, have the other researchers not arrived yet? That's not the case. The administrator took a deep breath. He said that the data entry process is not simple at all, and it is not easy to do it in advance. He turned around and gave instructions to his assistant while walking towards his office. Let them all line up and go in groups of 5 later. Hearing the voice, Zhang Chen subconsciously looked at Su Zheng and opened his mouth. Comrade administrator, it's not that the other researchers haven't arrived yet, it's that I'm the only one here to enter the information boom. The administrator stumbled and stumbled. If he hadn't reached out in time to hold on to the table beside him, he would have almost fallen. He swallowed, as if he had heard some incredible news. Eyes wide open. You said you were alone. Zhang Chen nodded, yes. The administrator looked at Su Zheng, as if seeking confirmation. Seeing that the administrator was taking so long to do his job, old Wang came over with a loud voice. Xiao Li, why do you have so many questions today? Can't you just finish your work quickly? On the other hand, yes, since the equipment is ready, what difference does it make if a few people come to store it? However, the Long Institute has always had a set time for recruiting researchers, and there has never been an exception over the past few decades. It's hard not to be curious about this person who could actually make an exception for the dean and others. He looked Zhang Chen up and down, come with me. Noticing the administrator's expression, Mr. Wang frowned, feeling a little worried. Xiao Zhang, come on, I'll go with you to process the entry. Zhang Chen opened his mouth, but before he could refuse, old Wang had already followed the administrator to the front. Okay, let him follow. I have things to deal with here, so I won't accompany you. Zhang Chen was actually a little flattered that the people with the final say in Long Academy were so polite to him. He waved his hands repeatedly, the dean's matter is of course a big deal, you just need to take care of your own things, Zhang Chen can handle these small matters by himself. Not arrogant or impatient, he is a good child. Su Zheng nodded with satisfaction, and when he left, he specifically asked Zhang Chen to write down his cell phone number. When Zhang Chen walked in and sat opposite the administrator, I don't know why Mr. Wang taught the administrator a lesson. You didn't even ask and just filled in the form of a level 4 researcher. What's the point of having a long mouth? The administrator was confused and felt aggrieved for a moment. Isn't this usually the case? Who of our researchers who entered the Dragon Science Institute didn't start out as the lowest level researcher? Of course, the administrator didn't dare to say the latter words in front of Mr. Wang. In Long Hospital, who doesn't know about Mr. Wang's hot temper? If you mess with him, nothing good will happen. I simply nodded, yes, it was my negligence. He quickly moved his hands to delete the fixed content he had previously filled in. Comrade, are you a level 3 researcher? There was obvious uncertainty in his tone. Since he started working in the Information Management Office of Long Institute, he had never seen such a precedent. It turned out that the person who entered Long Academy was not at level 4, but was admitted by skipping levels. He put his fingers back on the keyboard and was about to start typing level 3. I heard it right beside my ear. Excuse me, Comrade Administrator, my name is Zhang Chen, my ID number is, and I am a second level researcher. Once these words came out, the administrator looked up suddenly, his mouth opened wide. My jaw nearly dropped to the ground. Even my fingertips were trembling. For a moment I was silent. He realized that he was unable to make any sound. Second level? Are you sure? No, Mr. Wang is the witness. When he heard Zhang Chen mention his name, Mr. Wang felt a little elated for a moment and nodded repeatedly, yes, I will testify. Hurry up, after entering Xiaojiang's information, Lao Chen and I still have some questions to ask him, don't waste our time. Hiss, the administrator couldn't help but take a breath. Who are Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen? He is a leading figure in the aerospace field at the Long Institute. You actually asked a young boy for advice. Chapter 58. What kind of strength does this young man have? Only a leading figure can say such words. I can't figure it out. I really can't understand it. But this question remained until Zhang Chen finished entering the information into the database, and as Elder Wang and Elder Chen left, I couldn't even open my mouth to ask. But he didn't get an answer, and he felt really uncomfortable. You were close to the dean and the others just now. Did you hear what they said? The administrator tilted his head and looked at his assistant. The latter nodded, then shook his head. I didn't hear it clearly. I just heard the dean tell the young comrade, I have something to do and I'll leave first. I won't accompany you anymore. As soon as these words came out, the administrator widened his eyes in shock and leaned his upper body back slightly. I already have my own ideas in my heart. My goodness, this guy must have come in through the back door, right? Suddenly, the administrator really felt that he had discovered the truth. He pursed his lips, shrugged and sighed, just wait and see, this kid won't stay in Long Academy for long. Long Institute is not a place where anyone can enter through the back door. If you want to stay in there for a long time, you absolutely cannot do it without strength. Because in this Long Academy, everyone has one thing in common. Strength is everything. In Long Academy, strength means the right to speak. Zhang Chen clenched the certificate of second-level researcher in his hand. From today on, he is finally a member of the Dragon Science Academy. For some reason, when he looked up at the sky, he felt a sore nose and red eyes. Or is there no place to share the joy in your heart? Or maybe my wish comes true and my parents are no longer alive. In the dean's office. Zhang Chen discovered this when he followed Elder Wang and Elder Chen in. The door was wide open, and I was about to step in. But I found that two people were squeezed out directly from inside. They didn't give up yet, and leaned their upper bodies forward, trying to squeeze themselves in. I've already told you that Zhang Chen isn't here, but you guys just don't believe me. Also, where did you get the news that Zhang Chen was coming here? Inside the office, Su Zheng's voice was heard, mixed with a bit of impatience and helplessness. So where is he now? Can we meet him? Yes, we have many questions for him. I heard that he also explained the technical principles of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets to those ignorant guys in the laboratory building. Yes, we also want. Looking at the scene in front of him, Zhang Chen's steps forward seemed to be stopped by something invisible. On Ying Lang's cheeks, the facial features were almost wrinkled together. What a euro are these? Old Wang looked away, not daring to meet Zhang Chen's gaze. As for Mr. Chen, he also covered his face with one hand. What a shame. I never thought they would be so unruly and jealous of our colleagues in the lab building. He shook his head and looked at Zhang Chen with some embarrassment. Why don't you hide for today? If you stay, you won't be able to leave for a while. Zhang Chen carefully considered Chen Lao's opinion. Listening to what those researchers said just now, Zhang Chen could also feel their thirst for knowledge. Then I'll go back first. Comrade Zhang Chen? Elder Wang, Elder Chen? Why are you standing outside? Aren't you going in? Ji Yun and his team members came from a distance. From a distance, she could see a tall figure, just like the one in the photo of Zhang Chen that she had investigated. The sound is not small, in addition, words spoken in the corridor will automatically be twice as loud. The researchers crowded at the office door suddenly took back their steps. Both eyes lit up. Looking at the three people outside the door, they all knew Elder Wang and Elder Chen, so Zhang Chen could only be. Suddenly, everyone in the office rushed out tacitly. The one on the outside was pushed directly against the wall. His face and body were pressed against the wall. With open palms, he leaned against the wall. Hands, feet, who stepped on my feet? It became difficult to speak. Comrade Zhang Chen, are you Comrade Zhang Chen? We are from the research department of Long Institute. We would like to ask you some questions. Do you have time? There were bursts of talking in my ears. For the first time, Zhang Chen felt like he was going to faint. I stepped back subconsciously. No, what's going on, Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen? He had never seen such a big scene in his life. Moreover, the words and actions of these researchers now have refreshed his inherent impression of researchers in the traditional sense. I watched my office suddenly become empty. Then I heard the corridor suddenly become noisy. Su Zheng's heart skipped a beat. Don't scare this little ancestor away, you idiots. In a hurry, he looked around the office. Finally it landed on a loudspeaker in a corner. With his other hand he picked up a chair. Put it at the door and step on it. All of you, be quiet. Look at yourselves, one by one, what do you look like? No rules. No organization. No discipline. Hearing the sound, the noise in the corridor suddenly became silent. Everyone pursed their lips, squeezed into an area, and barely supported their bodies. Su Zheng glanced at them and said, if you want to ask Comrade Zhang Chen about rocket technology, you have to see if he is willing to do so. What are you doing now? Are you forcing others? You are all like robbers. If I were their little comrade, I wouldn't bother to pay attention to you. The dean kept talking to me about this. The researchers all lowered their heads a little more. Comrade Zhang Chen is here for the first time. Can't the dean give us some face? A person in the crowd clenched his teeth, but squeezed out a sound without moving his lips. Suddenly, the sharp eyes of Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen shot over. Then, they stood in front of Zhang Chen tacitly. You want face? Is face given by others? Everyone, go back to the research lab now. We need to discuss the arrangements before we make a decision. Noticing Su Zheng's unquestionable gaze, they looked at each other and exchanged glances. When leaving, his eyes seemed to wish he could take Zhang Chen away with him. After entering the office, Ji Yun only realized later that he seemed to have done something wrong. Zhang Chen, look at the current situation. Su Zheng stopped talking and tentatively asked Zhang Chen for his opinion. Zhang Chen lowered his head, not knowing what he was thinking. A long time, she raised her head and met Su Zheng's gaze, and said a little embarrassedly, well, excuse me for asking, I am a tutor at the Dragon Academy. Does that count as a job? After a pause, he continued, although I don't want money for the relevant technology, one thing is for sure, this work cannot be considered free. Su Zheng was caught off guard by Zhang Chen's words. I couldn't help but sneer, of course I can't treat you badly in terms of money. Chapter 59. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen smiled at each other. I have to say, this is the first time in my life that I have seen a scientific research genius who is so obsessed with money. You can't blame Comrade Xia Zhang. After all, he has a company and 6 people to support, puff. When talking about Zhang Chen's technology company, even the usually serious Mr. Chen couldn't help but laugh out loud. That's true, 1 company, 6 people, and Zhang Chen himself must be counted. Be serious. What's your reaction? He deserves the salary. Besides, he helped our Long Institute and Longwo break through such a huge technological barrier. Su Zheng glanced at Mr. Chen and Mr. Wang and naturally heard their conversation. And I agree with it as well. After getting Su Zheng's assurance, Zhang Chen nodded, feeling relieved. He stood up and said to Mr. Chen, please take me to meet those researchers so I can start working. He straightened his clothes and waited quietly for Mr. Chen to get up. For a moment, Su Zheng and the other 2 were stunned. Is that all? Shouldn't we ask them how much their salary is? How are salaries, vacations, holidays, etc. arranged? Zhang Chen, don't you ask how much salary we pay you. Su Zheng asked tentatively. As for this young man Zhang Chen, the people present could no longer keep up with his thinking. Faced with Su Zheng's question, it was Zhang Chen's turn to be stunned. Shouldn't this be fixed? Can I still raise it myself? Besides, I still trust the work of the Dragon Science Institute. Ji Yun, who remained silent, could not help but think of the time when he had just entered Long Institute and was promoted to the head of the Software Information Group. I discussed salary with the dean. Zhang Chen's contribution to Dragon Country is undoubtedly greater, and he does not have excessive demands for salary. Compared with this, my face turned red. He dug his toes into the floor so hard that he wished he could dig out a 3-bedroom apartment. Su Zheng frowned and stared at Zhang Chen for a long time. Then he said in a deep voice. Please allow us to discuss this. I will definitely give you a reasonable answer today. That's fine, but you guys have to hurry up. I can't go back too late. I have things to do in the company. Zhang Chen raised his wrist to check the time and couldn't help but remind him. His coming to Long Institute today was an accident. If Mr. Peng hadn't brought him here, he might have been a few days late. After returning to the company, he must first confirm whether the cooperation with the military material supplier that Su Zheng had previously shared with him was successful. After finishing these, I have to go to Jinga to attend a class reunion. Life is really boring if you are always tied up between work and rest. You must always maintain balance. We must also draw a clear line between work and entertainment life. This way you won't live too depressed. In the corridor outside the office, Su Zheng pulled Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen and Ji Yun together to form a circle. After making sure the door was closed, he turned around and looked at the few people. What do you think about this matter? Are you talking about Comrade Zhang Chen's salary? Or can we respect his wishes and pay him according to the normal salary of a tutor? Old Wang hesitated for a moment and did not respond at first, but when he heard Ji Yun's words, his expression changed visibly. I object. As mentors, do you think the content taught by others can be on the same level as Zhang Chen's? If you think you can, I take back what I said. Su Zheng nodded, Mr. Wang is right. Mr. Chen, what do you think? I think that giving Zhang Chen 10 times his salary is not enough, and if it's too much, the other instructors will definitely not agree, and they might even make a scene. So I thought, since we have given Zhang Chen the status of a second-level researcher, why not give him the right to freely use and dispatch the military materials research and development equipment of the Dragon Science Institute? Plus, the salary is the same as other tutors. What do you think? Just because he handed over the core technology of liquid nitrogen methane rockets for free, I support him, old man. Old Wang clenched his fist and hammered his chest. His face looked extremely excited. The 3 of them finally turned their attention to Ji Yun. Although the latter felt a little unnatural, he still nodded. I agree. Hearing this, Su Zhenzi stood up and spoke solemnly, well, let's happily make our decision on this matter. Several people agreed and approved Mr. Chen's proposal. Zhang Chen in the office turned around and looked at the door from time to time. I scratched my head, is it really that difficult? Or have I given them too much scope to discuss? If I had known, I would have just given a random number first. After Su Zheng and his companions returned to the office, they announced the results of the discussion to Zhang Chen. At first, Zhang Chen looked at the smiles on the faces of several people. I couldn't help but feel a little nervous. It is even more difficult to guess how the other party will decide. She pursed her lips and said, why? Do you feel a little embarrassed? How about I make a sacrifice and ask for less, just to show my appreciation? They obviously didn't expect Zhang Chen's words. After being stunned for a while, Mr. Wang was the first to react. No, 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 you misunderstood. After saying that, he turned and looked at Su Zheng. The look seemed to urge him. Dean, why don't you explain quickly? Look how scared the child is. Su Zheng cleared his throat lightly. Zhang Chen, don't worry. You are the one who is in trouble. We are worried that the salary is too low. After our discussion, we finally agreed to give you the same salary as other instructors. In addition, we will give you the right to use military materials at will. That's right. Mr. Wang also nodded and responded with a smile. But, Zhang Chen was surprised by their actions and reactions. His eyes widened, his gaze wandering between the few people in disbelief. This is truly rare in the world. Most of the people we meet usually feel they are being taken advantage of and keep bargaining until they are satisfied. However, it is rare to find a place like Long Academy that not only did not reduce salaries but also gave such great power. He had never encountered anything like this in his life. However, as the beneficiary, he obviously had no reason to refuse. He answered it right away. Or maybe it was because the whole thing went too smoothly. So much so that when he followed Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen to the research laboratory, the mind and steps are light. Looking at the black and gold card in his hand that Su Zheng gave him before he left, he looked dazed. There are a few big words engraved on it, materials dispatch. This was the first time Zhang Chen felt the heavy weight of a few words. Chapter 60. Inside the research room. A group of scientific researchers were extremely anxious. The liquid nitrogen methane rocket was placed in the center, but no one had the heart to study it. He was focused on the door. Why hasn't Comrade Zhang Chen come over yet? Did he refuse? Shut up your crow mouth, can't you say these pleasant words? Maybe the scene we just made scared the young comrade and he doesn't want to come over. Without saying a word, everyone in the room fell into silence tacitly. Until I heard a knock on the door. They were startled and turned towards the door in unison. After seeing clearly that the person coming was Zhang Chen, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Woohoo! Thank God, the little comrade is here. My pounding heart can finally beat a little slower. Maybe it's because I've just seen the true faces of these researchers. Zhang Chen didn't feel any embarrassment or discomfort when he saw them again. As for Elder Wang and Elder Chen, they were also amazed at Zhang Chen's popularity. He raised his eyebrows and glanced at the researchers around him. Normally, they are all more arrogant than each other, so why are they so obsessed with Zhang Chen now? With his arms folded across his chest, he sat quietly at a table nearby. Let's just take a look at the situation here first. Xiao Zhang can't say too much today anyway. I heard that there seem to be a lot of Zhang Chen's notes in the laboratory building. After we send Xiao Zhang away, we two old brothers will take everyone over there to have a friendly exchange. As Mr. Wang spoke, a hint of cunning flashed across the corners of his eyes. Chen Lao put his fist to his mouth and coughed softly. This is not good, right? Mr. Wang was about to refute and try to convince Mr. Chen. Suddenly, I heard him change his tone. We can just take down the plates and bring them back while they are eating. Hearing this, Mr. Wang gave a thumbs up and said, Brother, you are really awesome. I hope the iris we recorded back then can still help us get in. Zhang Chen stood in the center of the research room. Even he himself did not expect that these researchers, I just met them once in the office corridor. Why are you so enthusiastic? Could it be that what he had learned at the beginning was that researchers only had research in their eyes, no emotions and even no extra emotions? Is the intelligence wrong? Looking at the researchers surrounding him, he slowly opened his mouth. Everyone, I just came here to meet you today, and I will be leaving soon. As soon as he finished speaking, visible disappointment appeared on the scientist's face. But then, Zhang Chen continued, but I am now a specially invited instructor at the Dragon Science Institute. I will come to explain the contents of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets to you later. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Sure enough, the loss is only fleeting. Those researchers even personally escorted Zhang Chen to the gate when he left. When I returned to the laboratory, I kept muttering these things. Alas, it's a pity that we didn't learn much about liquid nitrogen and methane today. Yes, otherwise I would be so happy that I couldn't sleep all day. Oh, right. Did you notice the person who left with Comrade Zhang Chen? Someone in the crowd suddenly exclaimed. This made Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen couldn't help but frown and fall into deep thought. It looks a little familiar. Bang. Mr. Wang smashed his fist on his other palm, and suddenly understood. I was wondering why it looked so familiar. That's Mr. Peng. Mr. Peng from the experimental building. No wonder Xiao Zhang was brought here from the laboratory building by the dean. It turns out that it was Elder Peng who brought him here. He raised his hand and stroked his chin carefully, thinking carefully. However, this sentence was also successfully heard clearly by other researchers. Those people looked at Mr. Wang with their eyes wide open. Mr. Wang, do you mean that Comrade Zhang Chen went to the laboratory building before going to the office? Yes, I stayed there for quite a while, and I also taught them a lot about liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. Mr. Wang answered the researcher's question almost subconsciously. Chen Lao, who was standing by, couldn't help but add fuel to the fire. The most infuriating thing is that those guys didn't know Zhang Chen was a rocket maker at first, and they even mocked him. Everyone at the scene took a deep breath. Mocking Zhang Chen? How dare those guys in the lab building? Let's not talk about making the rocket reusable and equipped with a satellite that can produce 8K clear images. Let's just ask them to make a liquid nitrogen and methane rocket and try it out? Can they study clearly the energy supply principle of liquid nitrogen and methane? These two sentences aroused public indignation. Researchers all expressed their dissatisfaction with Zhang Chen. Mr. Chen and Mr. Wang exchanged glances. The smile reached his eyes. This is the effect they want. He stood up and raised his hand to stop the crowd from speaking in dissatisfaction. He pretended to be embarrassed and spread his hands. Then what can we do? Yeah, you can't just remove someone else's plates, right? Plate? What plate? Someone in the crowd subconsciously asked. Ah? You don't know anything? Do you think Xiaozhang is just talking nonsense in front of them? Before Xiaozhang left, he wrote them a whole page of data on the principle of liquid nitrogen and methane energy supply. A whole page. Yes, there are many formulas and analyses. Mr. Chen stepped forward to add his words at the right time. The two of them sang in unison, successfully arousing the envy and jealousy in the eyes of everyone. As he spoke, old Chen was also thinking about the USB flash drive that Zhang Chen gave him. He didn't mention this. After all, although there are relevant formula data in the U-disk, there is no detailed analysis. The most urgent thing is the content of the sections in the experimental building, which attracts him more. That won't work. How can they have the content introduced by Comrade Zhang Chen? Everyone, come up with a solution quickly. Our research building cannot fall behind. Right. When it comes to technology, all first come first served matters, just get out of the way. What's more, it is located between the laboratory building and the scientific research building, coexisting in Long Institute. There is no distinction between you and me. Looking at the atmosphere at the scene, Elder Chen whispered in Elder Wang's ear, it's almost done. I think we can tell them now. Mr. Wang nodded. Clapping brings them together. Guys, I have an idea. 6:30 p.m., when all the researchers in the laboratory building happily went to the cafeteria to eat, 10 representatives sent by the people in the scientific research building, carrying 2 or 3 tool boxes in their hands, quietly verified their irises and entered the laboratory building. Before leaving, the last scientist even made a face at the camera. 1 hour later, the researchers in the laboratory building returned to the laboratory. There was a large empty space on the wall, revealing the brickwork inside. Everyone was stunned, but everything around them was intact. My scalp can't help but feel cold. Damn. Who came to steal our house while we were having dinner? When Zhou Hongbin and Lu Chuan came in and saw this, their anger surged and went straight to their heads. Chapter 61. 18th floor, office building, Pengcheng North District. Bite. Zhang Chen's elevator stopped and the door slowly opened to both sides. In front of Jianglin Technology Company. Lu Yuanhang sat leaning against the wall. The head nodded repeatedly. When Zhang Chen got closer to see clearly, his eyes were almost completely closed. Until Xia Shui reminded, Boss, Zhang Chen is back. Lu Yuanhang woke up suddenly, his eyes a little blurry. When he saw who was coming, he stood up excitedly, Boss Zhang, you're back. His head was dizzy on the spot. Zhang Chen quickly supported him and asked with a frown, Boss Lu, are you okay? Lu Yuanhang waved his hand. After leaning against the wall to recover, he said, No, it's okay. It may be because I got up a little too hard just now. What do you want from me? Come in and tell me. As he spoke, Zhang Chen took out the key and opened the door. When I entered, 01 was the only one left in the company. 01 also saw that there were other people behind Zhang Chen. He stood up and walked towards the tea room. Zhang Chen took off his coat and casually draped it behind the chair. He sat on the seat, turned his head, and moved around a little. In contrast, Lu Yuanhang seemed a little embarrassed. Sometimes he even doubts himself, I am obviously the elder, so why do I become nervous unconsciously in front of Zhang Chen? That's really strange. Boss Lu, if you have anything to say, just tell me. If it's any later, I'll be off work soon too. Watching Zhang Chen sorting out the documents. The large characters above seemed to indicate some sort of clearance list. Lu Yuanhang got anxious and stood up and took a few steps forward. Well, I want to ask, has the Long Institute placed orders for all the goods in your warehouse? Zhang Chen paused. What's the meaning? Xia Shui was smart and figured out what her boss meant. Smiling, he stepped forward to explain, it's like this. Our Yuanhang group also wants to purchase these products. If Long Institute doesn't place an order, does that mean we still have this opportunity? Hearing this, Zhang Chen was a little confused. He really couldn't understand what was wrong with people nowadays. How come everyone is becoming interested in the models in his warehouse? Yes, we have already looked at the products on Xianyu. I think the Dragon Science Institute doesn't really need them. If that's the case, can we give them up? It was observed that Zhang Chen had put down the list at this time, with his hands crossed and his elbows resting on the table. The expression on his face is intriguing. As if he was seriously considering Lu Yuanhang's opinion. Don't worry, Mr. Zhang. Our boss won't make it difficult for you with money. As long as you give us a nod, our Yuanhang group can pay 10 times the price. 10 times? 01 has already calculated for Zhang Chen that it would cost a total of 10 million to clear out the goods in the warehouse. If they pay 10 times, wouldn't that be 100 million? In a trance, Zhang Chen felt that his pupils were filled with the shadow of money. Only a fool would refuse this request, right? Besides, the warehouse he had was not filled with real materials, but just some simple models. Zhang Chen opened his phone inconspicuously and saw a reminder in the background that it was just an appointment, but the payment had not yet completed the order. He pursed his lips and pressed his finger directly on refuse to accept order and ship. 01. Prepare the contract. Sign it with Boss Lu. Hey. Good, good, good. Seeing Zhang Chen change his words, Lu Yunhang's face turned red with excitement. As long as we cooperate with Jianglin Technology this time, there will be a second time and a third time. How could a company that has a relationship with Long Institute not have strength? Just 100 million to buy this relationship, this guarantee, after all, it is Yunhang Group that makes the profit. The entire process took about half an hour to complete. Su Zheng also received a notification from his assistant that Zhang Chen had decided to ship the goods. He immediately called Zhang Chen back. Zhang Chen, why did you cancel all those orders for me? Do you think the price is too low? We can still discuss it. Hearing this, Zhang Chen couldn't help but laugh. I stood up and walked to the French window. I looked down at the dim lights downstairs. The guilty conscience calmed down and he said softly, no, the boss of Yunhang Group came to me personally to apply to buy those products. I think he is very sincere. The price is 100 million. You know, those are just models. They are of no use to the Dragon Academy. He explained his thoughts to Su Zheng over and over again. After the latter understood, he breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he was not dissatisfied with their Dragon Science Institute, he could accept it. Then, when we leave the warehouse, do you want the help of the Dragon Academy? Su Zheng was so anxious that he had quite a few models. It must be a big project to transport it. At this point, Zhang Chen remembered the matter of transportation. He slapped his forehead suddenly. I should have discussed this with Mr. Lu earlier. Thinking about it now, I feel a little regretful. Since meeting Zhang Chen, Su Zheng has never heard him say such words. I thought nothing could stump him. In addition, he says what he thinks, he is not the kind of person who is two-faced, and he has a cheerful personality. It suits my temperament very well, and I couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha, then do you want my help? He asked tentatively. Zhang Chen smiled and thought, if that's the case, wouldn't it be a safe bet for me to get 100 million and not have to pay for transportation? This is a bargain, don't miss it. Hehe, I'm so sorry. I really troubled the dean. I will contact Mr. Lu later and send you the address and information. Su Zheng was stunned. He didn't expect Zhang Chen to agree so quickly. Before and after, just a polite remark, right? However, he understood that people who engage in scientific research rarely have such convoluted thoughts. Good. Hang up the phone, Zhang Chen picked up a black business card with a gold border that he used as a file compartment. I dialed the number listed above. Mr. Lu, I'm Zhang Chen. I'll send you the information of the transporter of the goods later. Please make sure to connect to him when you receive the goods. After answering the phone with a happy face, Lu Yunhang's smile deepened a little. As expected of Jianglin Technology, its efficiency is high. Looks like the delivery will be this evening. Let's not go back to the company yet, let's go directly to Yunhang warehouse. On the other side, Zhang Chen left the company, rented a shared bicycle downstairs, and headed to the Pengcheng warehouse area. When you reach the door, the old man who was guarding the warehouse in my memory was lying on a recliner with a newspaper covering his face. The palm leaf fan in his hand was fanning himself intermittently. His ears moved and he suddenly stood up when he heard footsteps. He looked towards the door. The cloudy eyes are still shrewd. He looked Zhang Chen up and down. Are you Zhang Xianxi's youngest son from Jianglin Technology Company? Chapter 62. Zhang Chen blinked. Yes, but I'm not the youngest son. I'm Mr. Zhang Xianxi's only son. Oh? He. Well, when I first saw you, you were only this big. The old man stretched out his hand and gestured, stopping at a place slightly higher than the table in front of him. By the way, what are you doing here? This is not a place for you kids to play. Zhang Chen took out the key he was holding in his hand and handed it to the old man politely. Uncle, someone may come to pick up the goods from 818 Jianglin Technology's warehouse later. Clear them all out. Here are the keys. Hearing Zhang Chen's words, the old man was obviously stunned. After taking the key, he couldn't help but ask, you Jianglin Technology is no longer doing business? Why did you clear the warehouse? Turning around and realizing what happened to his parents some time ago, the old man slapped his lips subconsciously. Look at my memory. I'm sorry. I'm old and I forgot about your family. That's good. You can pursue your ideals well. No, sir, I will make Jianglin Technology bigger and stronger. I am now the boss of Jianglin Technology Company. After paying the remuneration required by the process, Zhang Chen turned around and left the warehouse. Looking at the figure gradually disappearing in front, the old man burst out laughing. His palm was obviously burned by the key. The name of that temperature is responsibility and ideal. For a moment, his eyes turned slightly red and looked a little moist. She picked up the newspaper again which he had placed on the small coffee table beside her. He spat fiercely. How crazy must an empire that has lost its humanity be to discharge nuclear wastewater into the ocean? Not even 1/1000th as good as our dragon country youth. I lay back on the recliner and let my body rest. I didn't even have time to lie down. There were bursts of rapid brake sounds coming from the door. Then there was the sound of car doors slamming. The uniform footsteps made the old man subconsciously think of a certain black organization that he had seen on TV dramas. His body shuddered and he shot up. He swore that that was definitely the most agile leap he had ever made in his life. He looked around and finally fixed his eyes on a shovel. Holding it in my hand, I moved nervously towards the door. The footsteps outside were getting closer and closer, and the old man could clearly feel that his heart was about to jump out. He muttered, "If I can survive today, I will definitely quit this job. It's too late at night, it's really too terrible. Captain, the address that Dean Su sent is here." The leader was a young man with a tall stature and handsome face. He nodded and turned back to instruct his team members. The mission issued by the Dean must be an extremely important one. Everyone, take your positions and be prepared just in case. Remember not to alarm nearby residents. And ensure the safety of residents to the greatest extent possible. Yes. The footsteps and responses were in unison. The sound spread into the warehouse. The old man frowned, realizing something was wrong. Such a neat and well-organized group, only 2 words came to his mind: country. Plan. The shovel fell directly to the ground. With his eyes dim, he raised his hand and casually wiped the crystal on the wrinkles on his cheek. As soon as I went out, I saw a group of Longwell men wearing military uniforms with badges on their chests. The last trace of fear in my heart completely disappeared at this moment. The young man in the lead stepped forward solemnly. "Hello, comrade. I am Han Kuahua, the captain of the first team of the Dragon National Defense Department. We are here to transport the items in Mr. Zhang Chen's warehouse at Jianglin Technology Company." These 2 sentences shocked the old man. Zhang Chen? The young man who just came over here and asked me to do something for him? How could he be connected with the Dragon Nation Army? Then they Jianglin Technology. Hiss, I don't dare to think any further. He nodded repeatedly. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. He turned around and took the key left by Zhang Chen on the table. "Hands up, this is the key Zhang Chen left behind. Their warehouse is number 818. It's the one at the back, turn left after entering." Han Kuahua took the key and turned to hand it to his brother. "Begin preparations." Checking the time on the watch on their wrists, the moment Han Kuahua nodded, they ran to the surrounding areas. In the blink of an eye, the figures disappeared in front of the warehouse. The old man standing by was stunned. He scratched his shiny forehead and wondered, what's going on? Is it necessary to be so nervous about getting some models? The sound was so quiet that only he could hear it. He walked back to the warehouse step by step and watched 2 guards with guns rush in. 2 minutes later, the intercom next to my ear called out. "Captain, Eaglet calling the captain, there is something going on in the 818 warehouse. Requesting instructions, over." Han Kuahua frowned and put the intercom to his mouth. "Everyone, get ready. Be alert and stay alert. Ensure the safety of residents and belongings." As he spoke, Han Kuahua ran towards the 818 warehouse. The sniper hiding in the dark held the sniper rifle in his hand again. He narrowed his eyes slightly, not daring to blink, and stared at the camera in front of him. Another sniper not far away was observing the surroundings, but he did not find any snipers hiding outside the team. For a moment, I was unsure about how the situation would develop. All we can do is wait for the captain to issue the next instructions. However, Han Kuahua thought he had discovered something important. When I arrived at the door of warehouse 818, I saw my team members standing at the door with embarrassed looks on their faces. I couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? Why are you standing here?" The young team member named Eagle touched his nose and responded awkwardly, "Captain, the situation inside. I can't describe it, why don't you go in and see for yourself?" After saying that, the team member immediately gave up his position. Han Kuahua couldn't help but walk in puzzled. The next second, he rushed out again. I looked down at the ground, doubting my own eyes for a moment. Did I see it wrong? The intercom was on, so the rest of the team members naturally heard what Han Kuahua said. Everyone couldn't help but become curious. Han Kuahua raised his hand and rubbed his eyes. "Yes, I must have seen it wrong. Try it again. Take a deep breath and step back in." On the front shelf, drone models, various types of aircraft fighter models, and rocket models. They were neatly arranged in front of me and even carefully categorized. Is it really a model? What did Director Su say when he assigned us this task? The young eagle stepped forward and said, "It's extremely urgent. Their team is concentrated." Looking back, I see this pile of miniature military equipment that can't even be called toys, models. I felt mixed emotions at once. Just like this, what kind of danger could there be? I'm afraid that if it is transported openly on the road, no one will steal it. Move it, transport it to the destination sent by Su. Yuan. Chapter 63. Buzz. Inside the taxi, Zhang Chen's cell phone kept buzzing. The top note is on the avatar of the group chat box of Lonk University graduates. The red dot was flashing, and the words 99+ were displayed behind the mute symbol. Since the incident at home, Zhang Chen never clicked in to communicate with his former classmates again. After thinking about it, I decided that I shouldn't always live in the shadow of the past. After all, people always have to look forward. Take a deep breath. When he clicked on it again, he found that there were quite a few messages mentioning him in the group. 8 Zhang Chen, I say, class monitor, our outstanding graduate, do you have time? You should at least let me know, right? Yeah, maybe he has become very successful now and doesn't look down on us old classmates. That's not necessarily the case. Maybe he didn't do well enough and is too embarrassed to see us. Shut up, all of you. Zhang Chen is not that kind of person. This was a voice message. A familiar voice came from his ears, and Zhang Chen couldn't help but curl his lips. He shook his head and whispered, "You're still this violent even after growing up." A few days ago, if it weren't for Chen Jing, his good friend since childhood, who informed him that there was a party to attend, he probably has no idea at all. After thinking about it, I responded in the group. Time and place, I will definitely attend on time. After sending, I turned off the screen of my phone and put it back in my pocket. He tilted his head to look out the window and saw the scene rapidly moving backwards. He had an indifferent expression and looked very much like those young people who were tired of the world. The driver in front was observing Zhang Chen in the back seat through the rearview mirror, and his brows had not relaxed since he got in the car. Especially seeing that he had only one expression from beginning to end, the driver endured for a while, but finally couldn't bear it anymore. He reorganized his words and said, "Young man, if you don't mind, why don't you talk to me?" "What?" Zhang Chen was stunned when he heard this. He turned his head and looked over, laughing a little. "What did you say? Take things too hard. Yeah, I see you're not in a good mood." Zhang Chen shook his head. "No, I have a lot of work to do every day now, and I don't have time to think about anything else, let alone think about it." "Ha ha ha ha, that's good. Come to think of it, you really are the quietest guest I've ever had." The driver had a cheerful personality and spoke in a way that made people feel comfortable. I chatted with him more along the way. Maybe we talked about something deep. When Zhang Chen got off the car, the driver even gave him a business card. "It's not his, it's a girl's." The corner of Zhang Chen's mouth twitched. Could this be what they often said last semester, that when love comes, it can't be stopped? It's really, quite special. All I could think about was the driver's instructions before he left. "Remember to go take a look, maybe this is the fate that will come to you." Then there was a burst of laughter. When Zhang Chen saw this, he even felt a little envious. For a moment, he thought that even the driver lived a more free and easy life than him. Ding! "Mr. Zhang, your house has been bought back into your name." As soon as I got off the car, 01's voice came into my mind. The payment information on the mobile phone also comes along. The money Lu Yuanhang emptied out of his warehouse was instantly reduced to 1/5. Half an hour later, I returned to the home in my memory, turned on the light and looked around. The furniture was covered with dust, and nothing had changed. 2 adults are missing, and 2 photo frames are added. I looked up at the clock. It was 9 o'clock. After searching the kitchen and refrigerator at home, he found that there was nothing inside except a pound of noodles and some rotten cold dishes. I simply ordered a bowl of noodles. I opened the window, enjoyed the cool breeze, and fell asleep in the living room. On the other side, Lu Yuanhang stood at the door of Yuanhang warehouse, looking at the time on his watch from time to time. He looked into the distance again. Xia Shui naturally saw the anxiety on his face. "Boss, do you think Zhang Chen can deliver the goods on time? It's already 10 o'clock now." Lu Yuanhang stared at a pair of tired eyes and looked back. Glancing at the 2 rows of guys standing behind him working overtime to help unload the goods, he couldn't help but feel nervous. At this time, he responded with some uncertainty, "I think I will be there on time, right? There are still 5 minutes left if we don't follow the agreed time." Even the guy behind him could see the awkward smile on Lu Yuanhang's face. Not to mention Xia Shui, his assistant who has always been by his side. If the boss hadn't been waiting here in person, she had given up her job long ago and went home to get some beauty sleep. Not far away, the sound of car engines could be heard. Everyone's body was shocked suddenly. His eyes unconsciously looked into the distance, as if he had seen a savior. "Finally I'm here." Just a few tenths of seconds. When they saw the specially made camouflaged military truck approaching them, Lu Yuanhang was confused for a moment. He looked back uncertainly at Xia Shui beside him. This isn't coming to our place, is it?" There was obvious uncertainty in his voice. Not only Xia Shui, but even the guys behind her who were responsible for unloading and loading goods were stunned where they were. On weekdays, they see small trucks, vans, when have I ever seen such a grand scene? He tilted his body slightly and looked back. "Oh my god." A scream was heard and Lu Yuanhang looked over to the source of the sound. There was obvious confusion in his eyes. The guy pointed over there and said, "This isn't just one car. There's a long line behind it." Hearing the sound, the others did the same, leaning their bodies to look into the distance. I took a breath of cold air. It was true. Lu Yuanhang frowned, his heartbeat deafening. Should he not be coming to us? After all, although their Yuanhang group has a considerable business, it has never had the opportunity to cooperate with the military. As soon as the words fell, in the distance, a long line of military trucks, with the head of the truck directly passing through the gate of Yuanhang warehouse, everyone looked dejected. The next second, the front of the car swung. The truck stopped at the door of Lu Yuanhang's warehouse. There was a sound of a car door closing. A young man jumped out of the car, fully armed with only his face exposed. He strode up to Lu Yuanhang and stopped. "Take out your ID. Hello, comrade. I am Han Qiahua, the captain of the first team of the Dragon National Defense Department. We are here to deliver the goods of Mr. Zhang Chen from Jianglin Technology Company. Please cooperate and show your proof." Lu Yuanhang was completely numb. I stood there in a daze, not knowing how to react. Xia Shui, on the other hand, with an official smile on her face, took out the document of the contract signed with Zhang Chen from her briefcase. As well as Lu Yuanhang's business card, certificates, etc. Hello, Captain Han. This is the boss of our Yuanhang group. The goods from Jianglan Technology need to be delivered to us. After receiving the documents and certificates and checking them, Han Kuahua raised his hand and said, prepare to unload the truck. Chapter 64. He handed the document back to Xia Shuet. He nodded to Lu Yuanhang and asked, is it possible to arrange the unloading now? Lu Yuanhang opened his mouth, yes, yes. Of course. It just so happens that I have some friends behind me, so it's totally possible. The words haven't been finished yet, the doors of the rows of military trucks behind him were opened with a bang. Closed in unison. Even the soldiers' footsteps were in unison. Seeing this, the members of Lu Yuanhang's square were stunned. His mouth closed instantly. I don't even know what I'm going to say next. Is this the pressure from the national team? Even if I don't sleep tonight, it's worth it. I agree. I dare say that what happened tonight will definitely be something I can brag about for the rest of my life. After getting Lu Yuanhang's permission, Han Kuahua immediately made a gesture to his comrades. Get in the truck. Unload. At one command, the soldiers, who were fully armed like him, began to take action. It took less than half an hour for the goods to enter Yuanhang's warehouse. A hint of surprise flashed in Lu Yuanhang's eyes. The guys behind them were completely shocked by their efficiency. Check all the boxes after the document. Han Kuahua passed the documents in his hand to Lu Yuanhang. The boss, please confirm and see if it is correct. Accurate. Accurate. That's good. He turned to look at his comrades behind him, get your equipment ready and get ready to go back to camp. Han Kuahua put one foot on the edge of the car door and exerted force with his hands. The whole person jumped directly up. With a wave of his hand, the convoy of military trucks drove away in a mighty force. Only exclamations were left in the place. Boss, are you relying on the national team? One of the brave guys didn't care about the difference between superiors and subordinates at this time and sighed. Lu Yuanhang was stunned for a long while. The national team's big shot? The world of red dust? Maybe. After thinking for a long time, he tilted his head to look at Xia Shui and said earnestly, now you know why I am willing to spend a lot of money to buy items from Jianglan Technology, right? He can talk to the aerospace boss of Long Academy, so he is definitely not an ordinary person. Don't underestimate him just because he is young. Remember, from now on, Jianglan Technology Company's affairs will be the most important cooperation with Yuanhang Group. Xia Shui took note of it secretly. I have already put Jianglan Technology Company at the top of my list of cooperation choices. Early morning. As the alarm clock rang, Zhang Chen struggled to get up. Open your blurry eyes. I searched the living room for the source of the sound. I looked around but didn't find anything, but I remembered the alarm clock my mother used when she was alive. He got up and staggered to his parents' bedroom. After turning off the alarm, he leaned back against the wall and slid down slowly to the floor. One leg is bent casually, with the arm resting on it. He tilted his head slightly, not knowing what he was thinking about. Ring ring ring. The ringing of his cell phone brought him back to his senses. He took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and walked out to the living room. Look at the note above Chen Jing. Zhang Chen didn't hesitate at all and answered the call directly. Zhang Chen, you haven't gotten up yet, have you? Have you seen the message in the group? Group message? What's the news? Exiting the call page, Zhang Chen opened the class group message. It's been 2 years since we've gathered together, right? Pengcheng Hotel, I'll treat you all to a big dinner at 6 tonight. A degree that looks impressive. As expected of someone who got promoted. What? You got promoted? Then shouldn't we rip you off? After browsing once, especially at the end, I saw that the spokesperson was Huang Tian, a euro, and he even personally requested that he must be present. Zhang Chen was stunned, and at first he thought he had seen it wrong. But after seeing it clearly, I couldn't help but chuckle. It's him? Why is it him? Chen Jing said, are you talking about Huang Tian? I heard that he works in Long Institute. He should have been promoted. Suddenly, the topic changed, be careful, I guess he might be setting up a hungmen banquet specifically to target you. Me? Why would he target me? Zhang Chen walked back to the living room nonchalantly. He lay back on the sofa carefree, playing with the TV remote control in his hand. Oh my god, Zhang Chen, oh Zhang Chen, please be more careful. Who in our class doesn't know that no matter what activities the school holds, as long as you participate, Huang Tian will always be the second best after you. You said he suddenly showed up. What could be his purpose other than to outdo you? Nanan, are you going to wear this dress to the party tonight? Chen Jing looked back and saw that her mother, who always worried about everything, was standing at the door without her noticing. I won't talk to you anymore, I'm going to hang up. Beep, beep. Zhang Chen opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, the person on the other end of the line had already hung up, and a busy tone rang in my ears. After a quick tidying up, he went to the commercial street under the office building in the North District to have some breakfast. When I arrived at the company, he then realized that he would be the last person to arrive at the company for work. Looking at those young people who are only a few years older than me, sitting at their posts and working. When he came in, he just looked up and said hello, then went back to work. Everyone is working so hard, so naturally I, as the boss, can't fall behind. He calmed his mind and focused on the system. You won't know until you see it, and you'll be shocked when you see it. Without realizing it, his Yanhuang technology system has accumulated 18,988 technology points. With technology points in hand, in addition to those advanced and abnormal technologies in the system, doesn't that mean he can exchange for any technology he wants? When I think of this, Zhang Chen's excitement was like a surging river, flowing endlessly into the sea and out of control. Long-range box rocket launchers, amphibious assault ships, 3D projection research and development of military equipment technology, flying cars at 20 times the speed of sound. Zhang Chen's whole person saw the display wall one by one in a grey state, waiting for the equipment he unlocked through the technology points. He stood there in a daze, mouth wide open, just like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden. He just felt that his understanding of high technology and worldview had been completely shattered and reorganized. Each of the technologies involved in these devices, if taken individually, the difficulty is extremely high. Suppressing his curiosity, he clicked the asterisk icon on the transparent page with one hand. Suddenly, he just felt his body turn, and the whole person seemed to fly into the air. My mind became confused for a moment. The next second, a densely packed text piece together appeared in front of me. Does the host choose to spend 10,000 technology points to upgrade the system? Chapter 65. After I upgraded the system, what are the most obvious changes in the system? Zhang Chen asked subconsciously. But after reacting, I couldn't help but pat my cheek subconsciously. No matter which aspect of the system function is upgraded, it will be 100 benefits to you without any harm. The next second, the system gave him the answer. All-round upgrade. And when the host chooses to unlock the equipment, the technology points will enjoy a 20% discount on exchange benefits. After reading the prompt information clearly, his eyes lit up and even his breathing became rapid. 10,000 technology points can bring you so many conveniences. All-round upgrade. In the past, he might not understand what the system meant. But after all, he is someone who has used the inventor system. Now I understand a lot more. This is simply my super invincible golden finger. Such a good thing, no one would hesitate, right? Even if you hesitate for a second, it means you don't approve of the sponsor. Upgrade. Zhang Chen said simply and clearly. Although he doesn't like playing games, he has seen pigs run even if he has never seen pork. Upgrade to kill monsters, even if it is only one level higher, the effect is incomparable to the first level. Bite. A crisp sound, various information conveyed to him by the system began to emerge in his mind again. 10,000 technology points have been consumed successfully. The current remaining technology points are 8,988 points. The Yanhuang technology inventor system is being upgraded. Upgrading. Suddenly, Zhang Chen only felt an invisible force begin to surround him. My body gradually felt weightless. Until the whole body is completely off the ground and floating in the air, through the huge floor-to-ceiling window in front of him, he found that thin strands of light blue light were floating around him. A powerful force suddenly erupted, all the furnishings in the office began to float slowly. Escaped from the original gravity. Shit. Fortunately, I stopped talking in time and didn't say any bad words. Sure enough, the most important lesson in life is to learn to control yourself. Zhang Chen slowly closed his eyes and felt the power flowing in his body. The crackling sound was hard for him to ignore. Inventor system upgraded successfully. Zhang Chen slowly descended, and the moment his toes touched the ground, information about the inventor's use after the upgrade was also transmitted to his mind. Using the manufacturing cost of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket that has already been exchanged, the number of technology points consumed has been reduced from the original 998 technology points to 798 technology points. And according to the information he just got, he can also choose whether to increase the attack power of the circular robot while it is making liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. Moreover, the size of the attack power can be set according to his wishes. Seeing this, Zhang Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The inventor is very capable and he even rounded off the number to make it an integer. Crackling. After a while, the decorations that were originally floating in his office fell down with a bang, making it a mess. Even so, he doesn't care now. My heart was leaping with joy, with an indescribable sense of excitement. When I think of the almost invincible liquid nitrogen methane rocket I designed, in addition to its own powerful skills, then the skill of ground attack is added. If this goes into space, compared with those heavenly weapons of Eagle Sauce and Bear Country, it's just so weak, isn't it? When I think of such a powerful weapon that has almost no friends, as long as he works hard to accumulate technology points, it will soon become a unique high-tech weapon of the Dragon Country. I couldn't help but get excited. Ring ring ring. Zhang Chen, who was happily lost in his direction, was suddenly brought back to his senses by the ringing of his cell phone. I was in a good mood and didn't even have time to check the caller on the phone screen. I quickly made a phone call, however, the moment the call was connected, Su Zheng's anxious voice came from the other side. Zhang Chen? Oh, you should come to the Dragon Academy right away, don't wait until another day. If you don't come over, the Dragon Academy will be in chaos today. If you listen carefully, you can even hear that the background on the other side is also very noisy. Zhang Chen frowned and asked, did something happen? Why do you say that, Dean? Not yet. Is it because of that content analysis section you wrote about liquid nitrogen and methane rocket technology? Of course, Su Zheng could tell good from bad, so he naturally couldn't say these things out loud. Alas, it's because the laboratory building and the research building are fighting over the section you wrote. In other words, it's still the same things. Su Zheng felt embarrassed when he brought it up himself. They have all worked at Long Institute for more than 10 years. Almost all of them are decades old. Now there is also the issue of fighting over resources. I really feel uncomfortable seeing that he has no time to spare as the dean. Zhang Chen was also surprised to hear this. He had even thought about the enemy attack just now. But after hearing that it wasn't the case, he was obviously relieved. After all, he has not yet developed a liquid nitrogen methane rocket with attack capabilities. I am not sure I can slap those Western countries in the face. After thinking about it, he stood up and responded, "Okay, I'll go over now. No need to take a taxi. The people I sent out are already downstairs at your company." Su Zheng said immediately. Zhang Chen stood there in a daze for a while, then quickly reacted. The dean must have been prepared for this. He responded and went out to tell 01 to clean up his office. After the explanation, then he rushed downstairs quickly, as the dean said, "There is actually a car with the Long Institute logo downstairs." Seeing Zhang Chen approaching, the car door opened with a swish. A guard got out of the car and opened the door for Zhang Chen personally. Zhang Chen was stunned for half a second, then he raised his feet and sat down. The engine started and the car sped away. Half an hour later, the car drove steadily into Long Institute and headed straight for the core building of Long Institute. Zhang Chen frowned and looked over. He had only seen this building on the map on his mobile phone. I got off the car and stood in front of the building, feeling inexplicably excited. As we approached, we saw in front of the building Su Zheng, Wang Lao and Chen Lao. One by one, they were standing, squatting, or leaning against the wall. Except for Su Zheng, who had a normal expression, the other two had obvious guilt on their faces. Who could have thought that the big boss in Long Institute would squat in front of the building to wait for him? For a moment, Zhang Chen felt mixed emotions and couldn't describe the feeling. Why don't you two apologize to Zhang Chen? Otherwise, why would he come all the way here? Chapter 66. At an angle that Zhang Chen couldn't see clearly, Su Zheng tried his best to wink at Elder Wang and Elder Chen. The two of them understood and stepped forward cooperatively. Nodding slightly. Facing the two seniors from the Dragon Academy, Zhang Chen naturally didn't dare to ask them for anything. He stretched out his hands repeatedly to support the two of them. "Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen are in this situation now, why are you still being polite to me? So what's going on now?" At this point, Su Zheng's face suddenly darkened. His eyes shifted away, his hands behind his back. "You guys explain this situation to Zhang Chen now. I can't say it anyway." After saying that, Su Zheng walked towards the core building. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen looked at each other and said, "Let's talk while we walk." After the two people explained, Zhang Chen finally understood that the cause of this incident was that the researchers in the research building were jealous of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket data he had written down in the experimental building. Only then did he come up with the idea of a removing the plates and moving on to the scientific research building. But their actions are very ostentatious. Before leaving, he deliberately left a provocative image in front of the camera. It would be strange if those researchers in the laboratory building were not angry. As for why the two parties appeared in the core building, the reasons are, firstly, this core building is not only a gathering place for the core academicians of the Long Academy to discuss major events. Over the years, most of the research plans on aerospace research in Longhua were born here. Secondly, the core building is the birthplace of the solemn aerospace research program. It is also the place where members of the Long Academy receive punishment. Anyone who commits mistakes in principle or in terms of conduct must receive the appropriate punishment in the core building. At this time, the researchers in the experimental building and the researchers in the scientific research building all had some bruises on their faces. He reflected on his mistakes in the confinement room. But Su Zheng went in several times. They all stood firmly in their own positions, facing the wall. Neither side wants to be the first to admit their mistakes. If the situation had not reached a stalemate, Su Zheng really wouldn't take Zhang Chen over. After all, he just agreed to become a special tutor of Long Academy. I saw the image of the researchers and scientists in Long Institute. It is hard to imagine what he would think of the members of the Long Academy now. The more he thought about it, the more the frown on Su Zheng's brows became. Walking in front, I felt very worried, shook my head and sighed softly. Alas, these guys are already grown up, but they are always causing trouble for me. Zhang Chen followed behind and came to the dark blue iron door at the end of the corridor on the third floor. Along the way, he also discovered that the checkpoints that would check the identities of Dragon Academy members, he passed them all successfully. I can't help but feel that Long Institute is very efficient. The information entered yesterday afternoon can be freely accessed today. Open the door. The guard nodded, turned around and opened the door. A lazy voice came from inside, "Dean, please stop forcing us. No matter how many times you ask, our laboratory building is right. Unless they apologize first and put our plate back in good condition, this matter will not be over." Bullshit. If you hadn't secretly kept the data written by Comrade Zhang Chen and refused to share it with us, would we have resorted to such a desperate measure? Zhang Chen's mouth twitched. This strong smell of gunpowder, especially when he saw the person who was talking, he raised his hand and yawned. I asked subconsciously, "How long have you been here?" The words fell. Zhou Hongbin, who had been looking lazy just now, was suddenly stunned. This voice, sounds familiar? A row of scientists and researchers turned their heads. The two camps were almost in sync at this time. The moment Zhang Chen appeared at the door, pairs of eyes fell straight on him, as if they saw the light. If the dean hadn't stood beside Zhang Chen with a sullen face, they had already rushed over. Just when Su Zheng thought that these guys would report the other party's evil deeds to Zhang Chen, they all changed the direction of their conversation. Comrade Zhongchen, why are you here? Look, you were actually alarmed by such a small matter. I just reflected on it a little and discussed it with my colleagues in the research building. We were definitely wrong in this matter. We shouldn't have removed someone else's plate without their consent. Well, old so, we will fund your laboratory building and replace it with a better one later. Zhou Hongbin managed to force a smile. In Zhang Chen's opinion, crying would be more beautiful. Given Zhou Hongbin's temper, I will never forgive him. Su Zhang beside him whispered, but who would have thought that as soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Hongbin stepped forward and shook the other person's hand. It doesn't cost a thing. Just record the notes and put the original plates back for us. Looking at the friendly yet somewhat inappropriate scene inside, Su Zhang was stunned on the spot. They are not usually like this. If there is a disagreement about research resources, why can't they start a cold war within 2 months? After thinking about it, when he looked at Zhang Chen again, he seemed to understand something. There was darkness in his eyes. These cunning foxes. Zhang Chen might not be able to leave Dragon Academy today. Zhang Chen, who didn't understand the situation at the scene, didn't even have a chance to speak before he was directly carried by the leaders of both sides to the reporting room closest to the confinement room. Until he stood in front of the podium and looked at the complete teaching tools in front of him, only then did he realize that he had been tricked by these researchers. Shaked his head. I feel speechless and helpless. But he wasn't angry at all. He knew what they wanted, and even if they argued fiercely on the surface, their goals were always the same. All of this is to improve Dragon Country's technological level and overall strength as soon as possible. Well, in that case, let's get started. President Su, let's count it today. The latter sat in the first row and looked over. It took him half a second to react and realize what Zhang Chen meant. This kid really knows how to distinguish between voluntary contributions and work and teaching. Nodded, of course. Today is your first day at work. Zhang Chen smiled faintly, looking at the people who were ready to take notes at any time. Before we start, let's first solve the things you didn't understand yesterday. Now everyone is free to ask questions. There was silence below. The researcher looked at the notes in his hand and saw so many questions he had circled and drawn on them, and he looked embarrassed. Amid the stalemate, a researcher from the laboratory building stepped forward and said, Comrade Zhang Chen explained it very clearly yesterday. We are more interested in recycling technology now. Chapter 67. When he finished speaking, he clearly felt a murderous and decisive gaze coming from the other side where the researchers were sitting. He was thankful that looks couldn't kill, otherwise, he felt that he would have been killed on the spot. Zhang Chen in front could naturally see the little moves made by the researchers. I didn't expect these researchers to have such an interesting side. Don't they always emphasize asking questions that are not embarrassing? Now everyone is becoming reserved. He lowered his head and chuckled, there is no rush for recycling technology. We have plenty of time to talk about it. If you have no objections, I would like to review yesterday's content with you. Beside the scientific research building, the dull eyes looking at Zhang Chen gradually became clear, slightly red, and stained with crystal. Everybody trembled. I originally thought that Zhang Chen would accept the opinions from the laboratory building in order to complete the class faster. Let's skip yesterday's content and start with recycling technology. But Zhang Chen really took their feelings into consideration. Then let's start with the application principle of liquid nitrogen and methane. This hydrocarbon, which is composed of 1 carbon atom and 4 hydrogen atoms, produces natural gas at low temperature and low pressure. We use it in rocket energy supply based on its high efficiency, low cost, environmental protection, and renewable characteristics. Beside the research building, people looked at each other in pairs. Especially when watching Zhang Chen speaking eloquently on the stage and citing professional knowledge at his fingertips, their eyes were filled with respect. In the lecture hall, the scene was so quiet that the only sounds left were Zhang Chen's lecture and the sound of the Long Academy staff writing. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen even took out their prepared notebooks and sat down to listen carefully. The content on the blackboard was filled up and erased, and then filled up again. The same operation is repeated twice. Zhang Chen suddenly changed his tone. It's getting late, everyone, it's time to go to the cafeteria for lunch. Teacher. We are not hungry. Yes. I can listen for another 2 hours. Looking at the enthusiasm of the audience, Su Zhang nodded with satisfaction. He raised his hand and stroked his air beard. My dragon country has these pillars, it's a cause for celebration. Looking back at Zhang Chen on the stage, he saw that his face had darkened. You are not hungry, but I am. So, since I have been speaking to you all so hard for such a long time, can you give me a chance to eat? Listen, everyone couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. His face turned red, and the researcher who had stood up, stared at the complaining eyes of others, and sat down awkwardly. They surrounded Zhang Chen and walked into the cafeteria in a mighty procession. Unfortunately, I happened to meet a group of administrators from the archives room who were just finishing their meal. The administrator who handled the storage of Zhang Chen's files yesterday recognized Zhang Chen standing in the middle at a glance. Looking at the academicians in the laboratory and research buildings around him, he rubbed his eyes and thought about his own understanding of Zhang Chen. The corners of his mouth curled up. He tilted his head and said something to his colleague. Suddenly, the look from the archive managers instantly changed. Oh, I didn't expect that now in our Dragon Science Institute there is also a monkey who calls himself king, one of the administrators said sarcastically. I heard that someone came to our Long Institute yesterday through the back door? He is unworthy of his position. How can he stay here? These two sentences immediately attracted the attention of researchers and scientists in the laboratory building. Chi Baokuo, what do you mean by backdoor? Do you allow people who use backdoors to get through? Lu Quan's eyes lit up and he stepped forward first. But what he didn't notice was that Chi Baokuo glanced at Zhang Chen and said, yeah, he has a powerful backer. Old Wang and Old Chen, who were standing at the back of the crowd, looked at him with frowns. They said nothing, but their eyelids kept twitching and they felt indescribable. Zhou Hongbin couldn't help it at this time, and stepped forward, a little indignant. Even if he has a backer, it won't work. What does he think our Long Institute is? Is this a child's game? Who do you think Xiao Qi is? He is not strong enough. We at the Dragon Academy will not tolerate him. Yes. There is absolutely no room for him. Zhang Chen looked at the people behind him who responded one after another, including the man named Chi Baokuo, who kept glancing at him. My heart skipped a beat. This guy is talking about. Could it be me? I looked up and met that person's gaze. After confirming the look, Zhang Chen knew the result. Is it really me? Thinking about it, that would be interesting. He crossed his arms and said nothing. To be honest, he was a little curious about what would happen after everyone knew that he was the one who got in through the back door. What will the reaction be? Chi Baokuo didn't say anything else, but stared at Zhang Chen intently. The others whose curiosity was aroused by him became anxious. Who is it? Stop keeping us in suspense and tell us now. This group of them stood in the middle of the cafeteria, blocking a large area of a euro the entrance. The old men and women behind the cafeteria window all stuck their heads outside. Hey, the last time a scene like this happened in the cafeteria was during the war for resources between the laboratory building and the scientific research building. Yes, judging from their posture, they are quite powerful. Auntie Lin, please move to the side so that I can take a look. Yes, why don't you go out and take a look? You can see it more clearly out there. SHH, why are they suddenly silent? Some of the sharp-eyed ones noticed that Chi Baokuo's eyes were fixed on Zhang Chen. I have a bad feeling in my heart. He opened his mouth, trying to stop it. Chi Baokuo stretched out his hand and pointed in the direction of Zhang Chen, saying in a cold voice, it's him, a new researcher. It's okay to make an exception and only accept him. He was directly promoted to the position of level 2 researcher. Can you all judge for yourself, is he capable of doing this? After the words fell, apart from the administrator colleagues behind him who were shocked and shared the same opinion, Chi Baokuo did not hear any other voices of agreement. There was no sound of doubt about Zhang Chen as one would expect. He only saw the researchers in the laboratory building and the science and technology building looking at him coldly. The momentum immediately dissipated, and there was a clear lack of confidence in his tone. Why is everyone silent? Zhou Hongbin and Lu Chuan, who were standing at the front, looked at each other awkwardly, then turned their heads to look at Zhang Chen. I cursed Chi Baokuo almost completely in my heart. Especially Lu Chuan, who felt even more resentful. This kid hurt me. The good impression I made in front of Zhang Chen today was probably gone the moment I spoke just now. He raised his hand to cover his forehead, level 2 researcher. How can that be worthy of Comrade Zhang Chen? If you don't know the whole story, can you please stop talking nonsense? That's right. Have you ever seen anyone who has the ability to independently develop rockets through back doors? Zhou Hongbin and the researchers on the 2 floors expressed their dissatisfaction. Chapter 68. If those who got in through the back door can develop liquid nitrogen and methane rockets someday and give lectures to so many of us, then we wouldn't mind having more of them. The representative from the scientific research building also stepped forward, his face looking very gloomy. Originally, everyone in Long Institute knew that the experimental building and the scientific research building had always been in an openly competitive relationship. Now I see the two of them uniting to refute me together. It has to be said that the shock this scene caused Chi Baokuo was beyond words. The whole person was speechless for a moment. After hearing their words, he was more shocked. The first thing that came to my mind was, how old is this young man? How could he have such strength? If Chi Baokuo didn't know the people in Long Academy well enough, he would definitely subconsciously think that they were acting in cooperation with this young man named Zhang Chen. After listening for a while, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, who were standing at the back, also pushed through the crowd and came over. Xiao Qi, if there is anything, you should find out first, otherwise you will hurt others and yourself. What do you think? Chen Lao's aura suddenly exploded. By the time Chi Baokuo stepped out of the cafeteria, his back was covered in cold sweat. Yes, the one who followed Zhang Chen to input information that day was Mr. Wang. He forgot that Mr. Chen has always been upright and honest. How could he allow such a thing as using a backdoor to happen? Brother Chi, are you okay? Chi Baokuo came to his senses and said, it's okay, let's go back. Write a report and report to the dean. Otherwise, he would definitely not have an easy time today. In the cafeteria, everyone was inexplicably quiet during the meal. From time to time, someone would turn their head to look at Zhang Chen, observing his expression and reaction. Why are you all looking at me? Eat quickly. I have a party to attend at 6 p.m., so I don't have much time to teach you. A word fell. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, they immediately raised their voices again. He picked up the bowl and chopsticks in front of him and started to eat quickly. I usually finish my meal in 15 minutes. After Zhang Chen said this, they finished eating in just 5 minutes. Zhang Chen lowered his head, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised, smiling. In their minds, the moment they started eating, they received a message from 01 remotely. Mr. Zhang, the raw material partner sent by President Su Zheng of Long Institute has successfully signed a contract with us. The first batch of goods has been put into storage, with a total cost of 60 million. Excuse me, would you like to start remote control and manufacture a liquid nitrogen methane rocket with ground attack capabilities? When I heard 01's words, Zhang Chen paused noticeably. The moment I raised my head, there was a hint of joy in his eyes. Remote control? Yanhuang technology inventor, have they already upgraded to this level? Implement. Yes. 01 received the order from President Zhang. Byte. Yanhuang technology inventor system is executing the host's instructions. Target scanned. Successfully loaded the upgraded version of liquid nitrogen and methane rocket technology. Technology loading completed. Information data is comprehensively strengthened. Material scanning successful. Upgraded liquid nitrogen and methane rocket is ready for manufacturing. Consumes 798 technology points estimated to take 2 hours. When a light blue screen appeared in front of me, Zhang Chen was completely panicked. But when he looked up to see other people's reactions, he realized that the notification page of this system, he should be the only one who can see it. On the page, a picture of the company's warehouse appeared. The number of circular robots has increased from dozens to more than 100. Moreover, the light emitted from the edges of those round robots is no longer colorful. Instead, it flashed a circle of golden halo. They operated in an orderly manner with each other, and a slight electromagnetic buzzing sound began to be heard in the silent warehouse. Looking at Zhang Chen who was in a daze, Wang Lao and others who were sitting next to him waved their hands in front of his eyes. Some people are worried, what's wrong with this child? Zhang Chen. The constant whispering in his ear made Zhang Chen react suddenly. He stood up and picked up his bowl and chopsticks. Let's go to class. Zhang Chen strode ahead alone. The people behind him were also unsure of his current mood. I could only follow behind silently. Qi Baoqiu and his men must have offended Zhang Chen. Remember to report this to Ji Yun in the information building later. Hiss, okay. One of the researchers was stunned when he responded. Zhou Hongbin followed by the side, and upon hearing Wang Lao's decision, he could not help but look at him with new eyes. The fingers hanging on both sides of the body moved slightly, and he was about to give a thumbs up to Mr. Wang in the next second. Afterthought, the researcher scratched his head and said, "Can I go after class? I don't want to fall behind." The sound became smaller and smaller towards the end. Sure. Zhang Chen's class is more important. Before Mr. Wang responded, the researcher got Mr. Chen's permission. I was a little excited for a moment. If this had happened in the past, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen would never have allowed the tasks they issued at the time to be delayed until later. With the experience of listening to Zhang Chen's lecture in the morning, they also had some understanding of Zhang Chen's teaching style. In the center of the plate, it is written in big letters, "Rocket is reusable." Zhang Chen spread his hands and supported himself on the podium in front of him. He lowered his head and began to recall the relevant information passed to him by the system. When I raised my head again, a confident smile appeared on his face. How much do you know about the Eagle Sauce's large Falcon rocket and the Bear Country's Zenit rocket? Thrusters, second stage separation. Or is it the landing ballet of a Falcon heavy rocket? Double-sided boost. Talking room, the researchers in the audience had already begun to recall the experience of landing ballet that they had seen on the internet. Suddenly, he clicked on the screen in front of him that had been turned off, and the huge screen flashed. My fingers were on the keyboard, typing away rapidly. The next second, the technical principles of liquid nitrogen and methane rocket recovery were fully displayed on the screen. The voice changed. The liquid nitrogen methane rocket I designed only has one stage for recovery. If you haven't seen the relevant data of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket with your own eyes, you may doubt its strength. But here, I want to talk about the high separation point. The rocket thrusters and engines rely on gravity to fall back. And through precise calculations, it can rely on remote control to change its return route at any time and complete the recovery. After that, he looked at the people in the audience. They looked confused. Some of them opened their mouths, but then held them back under his gaze. When he looked at Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen again, their faces turned red and they turned their heads away to avoid his gaze. Damn it, are you going to let him elaborate? Zhang Chen couldn't help but hold his forehead. Can this be finished today? Chapter 69. Directly ahead, invisible to the researchers. The light blue page that appeared in front of Zhang Chen had been switched to the system wall. As far as he could remember, there were relevant operating techniques for text and image visualization in the system wall. Thinking, if they don't understand the relevant data and text content, if it is converted into images, wouldn't it be easier for them to understand the principles behind it? Look at the technology points marked below the text visualization technology, 666. Isn't it just a technology? How can it cost more technology points than the liquid nitrogen methane rocket with attack skills? Otherwise, don't exchange it. Tell them slowly, and then let them digest it slowly. Before this thought could take shape, he turned his head and noticed the confused pairs of people in the audience. On top of the big head is an even bigger greeting. Zhang Chen held his forehead with his hand. Forget it, since that person has money, I should naturally do good things for him. If he doesn't explain it clearly, he will feel bad when he receives his salary. Gritting his teeth, exchange. Byte. Text visualization technology is being activated. Trigger the computer's black technology skills. In-depth data analysis. Integrate. Integrate. Consume 666 technology points. Technology implantation in progress, will be completed in 30 seconds. A series of system prompts sounded in my mind. Suddenly, a massive amount of information about computers instantly flooded into my brain. Combined with the knowledge transmitted to him by the system, Zhang Chen even felt that his current computer skills were comparable to those of world-class players. After reading, under the tense gaze of the crowd, he pulled out a chair and slowly sat down. Well, since you are all doing research, I think you are tired of reading these texts a long time ago, right? Let's try a different approach today. After that, as his fingers tapped the keyboard, the data on the recoverable principles of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets were automatically converted into images on the screen under the watchful eyes of the audience. Seeing this, everyone's eyes widened with horror. Lu Chuan, who was sitting in the first row, slightly to the left of the center, couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Oh my god, are those words on the screen dancing in front of my face? Upon hearing this, Zhou Hongbin immediately gave his own thoughts. No. We can't explain this kind of operation. If Ji Yun from the information building were here, he would probably understand better. In Long Institute, Ji Yun is known as a leader in software information and a leading figure of the younger generation. His status can be compared with Zhou Hongbin, who has both seniority and ability in the experimental building. You two overestimate me. I don't understand how he can transform these automatically. The sudden sound beside their ears made Zhou Hongbin and Lu Chuan turn around. Ji Yun? When did you come? Just when Zhang Chen sat down. Ji Yun spoke without even looking at them. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, as if they were glued to it. Because she really couldn't believe that such cutting-edge technology could be mastered so skillfully by someone with such a different profession. According to the information held by their Long Institute, Zhang Chen studied the research and manufacturing of aerospace equipment, which has nothing to do with computer software. Look here, about the rocket segment. When I first started researching it, I divided it into several major parts: energy, engine, and control system. As for energy, I believe everyone can understand what we talked about this morning, so I won't waste my time here. Next we look at the engine. The text on the screen turned into images, and with Zhang Chen's appropriate explanation, the explanation process was perfect. The images change in real time and are sometimes combined to generate a complete 3D view of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket details. Sometimes the component system is automatically split under Zhang Chen's operation. This made Ji Yun, who had always used software and communications as his main field, feel a little shaken. He muttered, if these engineering tasks were handed over to me, would I be able to complete them? Or how far can I go in completing this? Looking at the people in the audience, including Ji Yun who came later, they all asked their colleagues for notebooks and started taking notes. His brows were tightly furrowed at the beginning, and then slowly relaxed at the end. Gained a shock value of 13,800 from Ji Yun. Received a shock value of 36,720 from Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. Received a shock value of 54,000 from Zhou Hongbin. Received a shock value of 41,020 from Lu Chuan. Obtained from Text Visualization Technology, a total of 28,600,000 experience points. Total balance of host technology points, 46,124. Enhanced Technology Inventor Level 3. The upgrade reward package will be automatically distributed to the host backpack after 24 hours. Hearing the voice, Zhang Chen's eyes lit up. I didn't expect that exchanging this skill could also earn shock value. He seemed to have grasped some of the conversion rules of the system's shock value. Can we obtain the relevant shock value by exchanging technology from the system and showing it to the public? At this time, Zhang Chen understood his true self. Licking my dry lips, I let out a long breath. Do you understand what I mean? The voice fell. At this moment, it was as if no one responded. For these academicians of the Long Academy, Zhang Chen combined vivid and visual dynamic image content to explain it very clearly. They can understand every section. However, the final integration content did not work. In his mind, the contents of each section were like a broken chain, unable to be read like Zhang Chen. Be fully connected. In this way, the content about liquid nitrogen and methane recovery technology was completely scattered in their minds. At this moment, Zhang Chen couldn't help but frown. It's already like this, don't you understand? On the table, slender fingers tapped rhythmically. His eyes swept towards Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen who were sitting in the middle, tentatively. The latter lowered his head, scratched his head and looked at the notes in his hand. Zhang Chen, your explanation is very clear, but I think we just lack practice. If we can disassemble the liquid nitrogen methane rocket and conduct an in-depth analysis, combined with your theoretical knowledge, we should be able to absorb it faster. Old Chen spoke slowly, his voice a little hoarse. But after saying this, when he received the guilty looks from other people in the research building, Mr. Chen regretted it. How could he forget that the last time they worked together to study liquid nitrogen and methane rockets, they were simply unable to disassemble the related systems? Sure, no problem at all. Didn't I sell one to the hospital before? Can't we just dismantle that one? Zhang Chen nodded. I think this is indeed a feasible approach. Chapter 70. After receiving Zhang Chen's approval, the people in the experimental building who didn't know the truth also became excited. But when he saw the hesitant gaze of the people in the research building, the excitement on his face suddenly dimmed a little. Zhang Chen could see clearly all these little movements between them from the stage. He shook his head and suddenly thought of something. Don't worry about wasting resources. If one isn't enough, I can just build a few more for you as backup, right? How about preparing 2, 3, or 4? Now I have enough experience points. It would be no problem for him to build a few more. Especially now with the all-round upgrade of the system, the number of circular robots has increased to hundreds. With his order, 3 liquid nitrogen methane rockets without attack skills can be built in one night. Zhang Chen was immersed in his own joy and didn't notice at all. In the already quiet lecture hall, everyone took a deep breath as he spoke one sentence after another. My jaw almost dropped to the ground. How come making a liquid nitrogen methane rocket sounds so easy and simple when he says it? It's like selling cabbage on the street. Everyone was caught off guard for a moment. They didn't expect that Zhang Chen would talk about building rockets so easily. Everyone present couldn't help but wipe the beads of sweat from their foreheads. Instructor, the 2, 3, or 4 rockets you mentioned, aren't they models? Zhou Hongbin paused. Even though Elder Wang and Elder Chen had no expression on their faces, but he still asked with some uncertainty. For them, let alone making a liquid nitrogen and methane rocket, even making an ordinary rocket is a big deal. Even though they have a complete team and professional skills, it still takes them several months to complete the task at the fastest. 1 hour, they were increasingly unable to understand Zhang Chen's words, and were even less able to follow his train of thought. Their faces became serious and their eyes were fixed on the podium. He pricked up his ears, wishing he could analyze every word Zhang Chen said. Of course not a model. What can a model bring to you? Of course, the real thing. How about it? How many do you plan to take? Looking at the elites of the Dragon Science Institute in front of him, his mouth opened wide. His chest heaved violently. Zhang Chen was worried that his remarks would scare them. He immediately explained, in order to prevent you from regretting it later, how about I give you a price first? Lest you regret it later. Thinking of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket principles that Zhang Chen had talked about, Zhou Hongbin looked solemn. My heart beat faster. He tilted his head and whispered to Lu Chuan, a rocket this advanced must cost more than 500 million. Hiss, 500 million, although they all know that the high price in exchange for high-tech equipment is worth it, but Lu Chuan and the scientists and researchers sitting next to Zhou Hongbin couldn't help but bleed in their hearts. They all looked at Mr. Wang who was in charge of submitting the funding report to his superiors. There was a little more sympathy in his eyes. On the other side, Zhang Chen didn't know what they were thinking. Pursed his lips and coughed lightly, 2 million per aircraft. Our company is relatively small now and does not support bargaining. Snap. As Zhang Chen's last words fell, a person sitting at the side of the stage lost his balance and fell to the ground. 2 million. His mouth opened wide. Didn't he hear what Zhou Hongbin said just now? 500 million? 2 million? This is not just a little bit different, okay? This is a liquid nitrogen and methane recoverable rocket. Just the liquid nitrogen and methane energy supply alone can raise the price to 200 million or even more. Plus the recycling technology, 500 million is just a small amount out of consideration. Is their genius little mentor stupid? That's just a small amount of money? That's not right either. For someone who can develop such advanced technology, there is no way there is anything wrong with him, not even his IQ. The scene became quiet for a while. Zhang Chen looked at the silent crowd, feeling somewhat awkward. What? 2 million is not enough. There was a hint of embarrassment on his face, and his brows furrowed. After Zhou Hongbin reacted, he saw that Elder Wang, Elder Chen and even Ji Yun who was sitting in the row behind them were not as excited as they were. His face darkened. What? You all know the inside story? Only we in the lab building don't know. 2 million to buy Zhang Chen's rocket. Several people nodded silently. Zhou Hongbin raised his voice and asked, it's really 2 million. How dare you take it? Isn't this bullying? He slammed his palm on the table and was so excited when he spoke that his eyes were a little red. He stood up from his seat tremblingly and walked towards Zhang Chen. He stretched out his hands and held Zhang Chen's hands, shaking them heavily. He kept repeating, Comrade Zhang Chen. Good comrade. Dragon Country is so lucky to have you. Suddenly, before he could react, Zhang Chen only felt a large string of crystal objects falling on the floor in front of him. Looking down, there was a large circle of crystal liquid on the floor. He was stunned and looked over there. Zhou Hongbin actually held his hand, wiping his nose and crying. This wave of operations completely made Zhang Chen unable to do anything. He was at a loss for a moment, and looked at Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen behind him, wanting to ask for help. But they obviously had no intention of stepping forward to stop it. No, let's talk it over. Don't be like this. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. We can still negotiate the price, right? Hearing this, Zhou Hongbin raised his head again, wiped away his tears firmly, and said, no. You don't want much, Dragon Science Institute can definitely afford it. Okay, so how many do you want first? Zhang Chen breathed a sigh of relief, watching a researcher bring him a cup of hot water. He smiled and said thank you. When he raised his eyes to look over, Zhou Hongbin had already turned to look at Mr. Wang. Then we need to discuss it. Zhang Chen raised his hand and made a gesture of invitation. 5 minutes later, he walked back with a smile, Comrade Zhang Chen, how about we start with 100? Puff, even though I was prepared for them to give me a big number, but when I heard this, I couldn't help but be surprised. The water in his mouth sprayed out before he could swallow it. If Zhou Hongbin hadn't dodged quickly, the entire spray would have been sprayed on him. 100, plus. Yes, in 2 days, if Mr. Wang can help with this matter, I believe it won't take 2 days for the approval to be in our hands. Then we will go through the legal process and follow the procedure. Zhang Chen swallowed his saliva. There is a sense that things are no longer in my hands. This is broken, isn't it? With all the technology points he has, he can only produce 57 rockets at best. What will he do with the other half? Chapter 71. The moment I walked out of the gate of Long Institute, Zhang Chen felt that his steps were all empty. What sin had he committed? He had spent almost all of his technology points on this trip. Ring ring ring. When the call was connected, an anxious voice came from the other end. Zhang Chen, where are you? You are the only one missing from the party. If you don't come quickly, Huang Tian may say something to you. I raised my wrist to check the time. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Isn't there still half an hour left? Why are they in such a hurry? As he spoke, he reached out and hailed a taxi. Pengcheng Hotel, thank you. I knew you would say that. Let's do this for now. Hurry up and come here. Chen Jing hung up the phone and glanced at the man not far away who was staring at her with a pair of dog eyes. She stomped the heels of her high heels and glanced at his lower body with a fierce look. The man seemed to be attacked from a distance. He suddenly bent his legs inward and fled. Chen Jing sneered, "Oh, how dare you covet my grandma." I turned around and was about to leave when I realized I was wearing high heels. I just said I can't wear this stuff, my sneakers are more comfortable. Second floor private room. After the gold-leafed door was opened, everyone at the table subconsciously looked over there. Hey, Xiaojing, didn't you say you were going to look for Zhang Chen? Where is he? Is he too embarrassed to come here? I heard his company went bankrupt and he's in a lot of debt. Lulu, what are you talking about? Maybe the team leader is rushing here from the construction site right now anyway, we've been waiting for so long, it doesn't hurt to wait a little longer. After all, the protagonist hasn't said anything yet. Every word they said touched Huang Tian's heart. Don't say that about Zhang Chen. No matter what job he does now, his status as an outstanding graduate of Long University will not change. Although his face was serious, he even spoke to stop them from talking about Zhang Chen. But my heart was filled with joy and I wanted to record it all on the spot. Once upon a time, he had always been behind Zhang Chen and was known as the eternal runner-up. Now he can finally be proud of himself. Chen Jing knew what Huang Tian was thinking, and smiled sarcastically. Under the light, Huang Tian could see it at a glance. The smile on his face froze. Everyone has been waiting for a long time. Am I not late? Chen Jing hung her head and played with the napkin on the table in boredom. Until I heard Zhang Chen's voice, only then did he become interested and looked towards the door. Zhang Chen had a hearty smile on his face. In a trance, everyone still saw the talented young man who was full of vigor and vitality in college. The reactions of the others made Huang Tian clench his hands secretly under the table. But considering the image I have in everyone's mind, I suppressed my emotions. He stood up to greet Zhang Chen. Come, our monitor, sit here. Zhang Chen nodded, with an unclear smile on his face. The others, however, watched with their arms folded across their chests with great interest. After all, there was nothing more exciting on the scene than the secret fight between the first and second place. After Zhang Chen sat down, those who had said a few bad things about Zhang Chen behind his back were instantly silent. But the atmosphere was quiet for only half a second. The girl named Lulu glanced up and down at Zhang Chen with obvious disdain in her eyes. Then he spoke to Zhang Chen in a sarcastic tone. Hey, squad leader, you look very busy. What kind of job are you doing now? Can you support your monthly expenses? You just came here, you must have been on a crowded bus, right? And have you redeemed your house in Pengcheng? I heard that your family... Bang. Zhang Chen was shaking the goblet in his hand. When he heard the second half of the sentence, his expression suddenly changed and he threw it heavily on the table. The goblet shattered. The way he looked at Lulu almost made him bleed. There seemed to be a mixture of ice that had not melted for thousands of years in that cruel gaze. Do you dare to say it again? The stiff words came out of his mouth one by one. The air pressure around them was so low that it made it hard for others to breathe. Chen Jing knew that for Zhang Chen, his family was his Achilles heel. There was a hint of worry between his furrowed brows. At this time, Huang Tian, a euro who had been silent for a while, couldn't help but speak to break the ice. Hey? Where's the waiter? Why is my food so slow to arrive? Hurry up. Another tightly closed door opened. Zhang Chen's eyes drifted over. He saw through their calculations at a glance. He pressed his tongue against his cheek and took a deep breath. Come on, let's give Huang Tian a toast. He has been promoted to a full-time employee and is now a formal 4th-level researcher at the Long Institute. Oh my. That's great. It's only been less than 2 years, right? Yes, he is the pride of our graduating class. Yes, I would say, what's the point of doing well in school? You have to stand the test of society to be truly capable. Huang Tian almost lost himself listening to the praises one after another. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Zhang Chen was sitting nearby, drinking. Huang Tian coughed lightly and signaled those people with his eyes. After a while, in addition, they often get together to discuss Zhang Chen's affairs. So I don't care about his current mood at all. Holding the wine glass, he walked up and put his arm on Zhang Chen's shoulder. The latter frowned imperceptibly. Take your hands away. Hey, why are you so stubborn? Zhang Chen, the days when everyone in school revolved around you are over. Wake up. As he spoke, the man patted Zhang Chen on the shoulder. The look was contemptuous and intentional humiliation. Huang Tian is now a 4th-level researcher at the Dragon Academy of Sciences and will soon join the research and development project of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. Have you heard of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets? They are the hottest topic on the internet right now. The smile on Huang Tian's lips was uglier than axe. Keep a low profile. I have only met the maker of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets a few times. It is my honor to receive his personal guidance. Zhang Chen heard the voice and felt that he was being called out. If he lowered his head again, it would be his fault. I looked over, raised my eyebrows, the look seemed to be saying, when did I meet you in Long Institute? Where is the personal guidance? In a dream? You? Were you personally instructed by the creator of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket? Is that true? Zhang Chen's few words made Huang Tian feel guilty. He swallowed and said, of course, he is a genius in rocket manufacturing. His eyes turned, and he didn't know what he was thinking of, and smiled triumphantly. I remember you were also researching this kind of technology. Would you like me to recommend something to you? Puff. Zhang Chen almost couldn't hold it back. Why, these days, he needs someone to introduce him to. Me. Chapter 72. From Zhang Chen's perspective, Huang Tian's expression was obviously a little bit upset. The heart is full of fun, and the corners of the mouth are curved. Okay, but I don't want to take advantage of this alone. When will you take us to meet that big guy? After saying that, Zhang Chen did not give Huang Tian any chance to refuse, and immediately said, it is better to do it today than to choose a day. I think we should do it today, since we are all here. Huang Tian really didn't expect Zhang Chen's request. He thought Zhang Chen would refuse out of shame. In addition, he deliberately revealed these things to his old classmates just to show off. But in fact, he himself knows whether he has seen the maker of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. Huang Tian, a euro, have you made up your mind? We are all waiting for your reply. If you can let everyone meet the maker of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets today, I guess Long University will invite you back to give a speech. After knowing it, he watched as Zhang Chen beside him turned defeat into victory and took control of the situation on the spot. Chen Jing was stunned. For a moment, she felt like her son had grown up and finally didn't have to be bullied by them anymore. What is that feeling called? Be proud of yourself. If she didn't intervene at this moment, when would she? It is certain that Long University will invite you. Who knows, the big groups in Pengcheng will treat you with courtesy when they see you. Huang Tian, a euro, are you really willing to take us to meet that big boss? Under the guidance of Zhang Chen and Chen Jing, there are already quite a few people at the table who are excited. They all started to turn their conversation to Huang Tian. The latter gritted his teeth, and the smile on his face couldn't help but crack. As long as everyone wants to meet, then, that's no problem, but it also depends on whether they have time, right? I'll go over and ask now. You guys wait here for a while. Zhang Chen raised his eyebrows when he heard the voice. This guy really wanted to save face but suffered in vain. Wouldn't it be better to just admit that you haven't seen me? Huang Tian picked up his phone and walked to a corner, and everyone watched him with enthusiastic eyes. Lulu, can you pinch me now? I'm about to meet Rocket Boss, why do I feel like I'm dreaming? After the words fell, Lulu was not polite at all. He stretched out his hand and twisted the inside of the other person's arm. With a scream of awe. Inside the box, even the guests passing by the door couldn't help but look over. Then he turned his head to look at Huang Tian in the corner, who was obviously making a fake call. Zhang Chen lowered his head and held his forehead. Why didn't he realize before that besides being rude, they also had some problems with their brains? Now he was a little curious. If they knew that I was the genius maker of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets, how to deal with it? 10 minutes later, Huang Tian came over from the corner. Her face was full of smiles, as if in the spring breeze. How is it? Did the boss agree? Everyone at the table looked at Huang Tian expectantly. I just called and heard that the boss is very busy right now. He is researching new high-tech, so he may not have time to come over. Oh ha euro, I see. Totally understandable, it's their status in our position, it's only natural. Huang Tian's eyes turned, but the boss asked me to apologize to you on his behalf. I will definitely see you when I have time in the future. Really? I was saying that our Huang Tian brothers are really capable. Watching these old classmates flattering her one after another, Chen Jing's mouth twitched. Tisk, what's so great about that? I just met someone who can make missiles. If our Zhang Chen had persisted and entered the Dragon Academy, his ability and status would definitely be better than yours. Don't you think so, Chenzi? Zhang Chen chuckled without responding or refuting. I heard that the boss is drinking right now, and it's in this hotel. Are you sure you don't want to see him? The voice sounded faintly. He picked up the wine glass, put it to his lips and took a sip. Hiss, mellow fragrance. But when Huang Tian heard this, the smile on his face became a little stiff. What do you know, kid? Have you ever seen the boss? Or is he more familiar with the boss than our Tianji? If you don't know, don't say anything, okay? It's rare to meet the boss. If you had worked hard, you could have met him, but who told you not to work hard enough? Hey, ignore him. Maybe he just can't eat the grapes and insists that they are sour. The old classmate's words quickly melted the coldness on Huang Tian's face. They are all waiting to meet the big boss through Huang Tian. Don't make him angry. Zhang Chen glanced at everyone present, his eyes looking at them as if they were fools. There was a crisp knock at the door. This was followed by a shout of surprise. Zhang Chen? Are you eating here too? When the others heard the voice, they looked over and their gazes paused, resting on the person who came. Walking in towards them was a beautiful woman who was 2 meters 80 centimeters tall, had long legs and a powerful aura. She was dressed in formal attire, and perhaps because she had just gotten off work, she had her work badge pinned to her chest. She walked towards Zhang Chen with a smile. The sound is soft and sweet, what a coincidence. I thought I would never see you again after that day. With just one sentence, the atmosphere at the scene began to bubble with pink bubbles, and the other single male and female old classmates felt mixed emotions. Especially the male classmates, their eyes were filled with nameless jealousy. As for Chenjing, she looked at Zhang Chen to her left, then looked up at the beauty, her eyes moving back and forth between the two of them. He leaned his upper body against the back of the chair, looking like he was enjoying a good show. When Zhang Chen first saw Uchiha, his mind went blank until he saw her work badge. Then he responded calmly, "Are you the rich lady teacher from Pengcheng Aerospace University who has placed an order with our company?" Rich teacher? Not to mention Uchiha, even Chenjing was stunned. This silly boy is such a nerd, why does he speak so directly? The way that beautiful woman looked at him was obviously not pure, okay? Uchiha nodded and was about to speak. A man in a plaid shirt laughed, "You placed an order with their company? My god, how desperate must you be to place an order with a bankrupt shell company that is now nothing but an empty shell? My beautiful teacher, have you been deceived? Well, we are all here. If you are really cheated by this kid, we will seek justice for you." Right. Uchiha looked at the drunken man in front of her and avoided him with disgust. His eyes questioned Zhang Chen, as if to ask, "Is this guy's brain okay?" The latter shrugged. "Oh, then there's no need to bother you. The rocket order between Mr. Zhang and I has been completed." Upon hearing this, the others looked even more surprised. "What? You bought a rocket from his fake company? I'm afraid you bought a model that can't fly." Chapter 73. What did you say? His company is just a shell company, it's a scam. That's right, girl, if you return the goods now, it should still be in time. Those people kept talking to each other, not giving Uchiha any chance to speak. By the way, how much did you spend on the rocket model from his company? Uchiha rolled her eyes subconsciously. If it weren't for Zhang Chen's sake, she wouldn't want to say a word to this group of people, okay? There was obvious impatience in his tone. 2 million. Oh, 2 million, maybe I can get it back. Halfway through the conversation, everyone, including the speaker, noticed that something was wrong. With eyes wide open, he looked at Uchiha and exclaimed, 2 million? 2 Ws? Zhang Chen, you are robbing me. The voice suddenly rose, and Uchiha was not prepared at all. She frowned and subconsciously walked towards Zhang Chen. Girl, don't be fooled by him. Can a broken model cost so much money? Our comrade Huang Tian has some accomplishments in rocket building. He is now a 4th-level researcher at the Long Institute and has received personal guidance from a liquid nitrogen and methane rocket engineer. Have you heard of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket? It's the one that's going viral on the internet right now. Listening to him chattering endlessly, even though Zhang Chen was so patient, the people who were planning to play with him became a little impatient. She glanced at him with disdain and said, "Shut up. You're making so much noise." But Uchiha is not simple either. The conflict between them could be detected in just a few words. Don't these people know that the rocket was made by Zhang Chen? Puzzled eyes were cast towards Zhang Chen. Wasn't he the maker of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket? And why are these people mindlessly targeting Zhang Chen one by one? Until she accidentally caught a glimpse of the man named Huang Tian sitting at the head of the table, and she became extremely jealous. The situation on the scene was immediately clear. However, Zhang Chen had no intention of leaving, nor did he intend to reveal his identity. It would be so boring if she just said it out loud. Suddenly, there was a hint of mischief at the end of her beautiful eyes. He pulled out a chair and sat down next to Zhang Chen. The long and straight legs were crossed together. He looked at Huang Tian with interest. Have you also seen the maker of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets? What a coincidence, I have seen it too. Once these words came out, Huang Tian's heart skipped a beat. My right eyelid couldn't stop twitching. An awkward smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He looked Uchiha up and down. You? How could a university teacher like you possibly have met a rocket manufacturing expert? How is that impossible? The rocket was launched from our Pengcheng Aerospace University. You know this, right? Uchiha stared at Huang Tian with innocent eyes. To be honest, I bought the rocket, and I personally launched it during the practical class. How come you don't know this? €. Okay, Chenzi, your friend is really amazing. Look at Huang Tian, €. His face is so dark. Chen Jing lowered her voice and whispered in Zhang Chen's ear. The other students couldn't help but discuss in a low voice at this time. That's true. I remember the person who posted the video at the beginning said that the rocket was launched from Pengcheng Aerospace University. But Huang Tian, €. He shouldn't even know about this matter. He looked up and saw that Huang Tian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Just according to the current atmosphere. Uchiha also felt that the time was almost ripe. She stood up, looking as if she didn't want to act with you guys anymore. Mr. Zhang, the liquid nitrogen methane rocket I bought from you earlier was very effective. As she spoke, she took out a card from her bag and handed it to Zhang Chen, ignoring the looks from others. This is a commendation from the Ministry of Education. I also want to buy new products from your company. Do you have time to chat now? Lu Xia ruthlessly exposed Huang Tian's lies in just a few words. She ordered it, and she clicked on the rocket to launch it. But it was indeed bought from Zhang Chen. Then wasn't the liquid nitrogen methane rocket that was launched made by Zhang Chen's company? 1 hour, they had never felt their minds so clear before, and felt that they had seen the truth. I never thought that when I went out for a meal, I would eat such a big melon. Zhang Chen saw that his disguise was exposed so quickly and shook his head, thinking it was boring. He naturally knew that Lu Xia was trying to help him out. Taking the bank card, he said, "Of course I'm interested, but let's go to another private room to talk. This place is not suitable." After walking a few steps, I remembered something. He turned around and looked at Chen Jing. "What are you still doing here? Why don't you come with me?" Chen Jing reacted quickly, picked up her bag, and followed Lu Xia and Zhang Chen. "Of course I have to go. It stinks here. I can't stay here for even a second." The sound gradually faded away at the door. The air in the box was so quiet that it was a little suffocating. A group of people were also digging their toes on the ground in embarrassment. Huang Tian was the worst among them. He even boasted that he had seen the makers of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets and received guidance from them. Isn't Zhang Chen the one who built that rocket? He had seen it more than once. I saw it every day in college. I never received any guidance from him, but I competed with him for 4 years. Now think about it, the expression I had just now made me look like an idiot. The wine in my hand suddenly lost its flavor. It fell against the wall beside it with a bang. Seeing this, the rest of the people exchanged glances with each other. Huang Tian, a euro, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do at home, so I'll go back first. Yes, my boss just sent me a message asking me to work overtime. Let's get together another day. The old classmates at the table left one after another. When Huang Tian was the only one left, not long after, the waiter from Pengcheng Hotel came to the door. Spread the form in your hand in front of you and start calculating. With an official smile on his face, he said, "Sir, since you maliciously damaged the wall of our hotel, you need to pay compensation. In addition, the total cost of the wine, food, and drinks on this table is 248,000 yuan. What? Is it so expensive?" He raised his head and questioned almost subconsciously. After receiving the waiter's sharp gaze, he fell silent for a moment and silently took out his bank card. "No password." Drop a long beep. "Sir, your balance is insufficient, please pay as soon as possible." There was no other choice, so Huang Tian shamelessly started the AA system in the group. After collecting the money, he automatically left the class group chat. Stepping out of the hotel, he looked up at the sky, and the cool breeze blew into his collar. A sad smile appeared on his face. 2 years after graduation, he seems to have achieved nothing, but when he returns, he is still crowned as a genius. Chapter 74. Hotel Corridor. After Zhang Chen left the box, the phone in his pocket never stopped vibrating. Lu Xia and Chen Jing, who were following closely behind him, slowed down their pace. With his arms folded across his chest, he walked slowly. He looked as if he was not concerned about the matter. "Ms. Lu, are you a teacher at Pengcheng Aerospace University?" Chen Jing blinked and looked at Lu Xia with curiosity on her face. "Yes, what's wrong? Is there something about me that doesn't look like me?" Lu Xia raised her hands and slowly turned around. The smile on her face made her look particularly gentle under the light. Chen Jing couldn't help but stare at you in amazement, and shook her head subconsciously. "No, you look so pretty, and even younger. If it weren't for the ID card pinned on your chest, I would have believed you were a student." Obviously, Lu Xia was convinced by Chen Jing's words. Later, when Zhang Chen turned around, seeing that the conversation between the two of them was very harmonious, in comparison, "I feel like an outsider. I couldn't help but shake my head. It's really easy to build relationships between you girls. Here's the bank card. Thank you for helping me out just now." Looking at the bank card that had been handed to her, Lu Xia did not take it. Instead, he looked at Zhang Chen seriously and said solemnly, "I really want to talk to you about future cooperation. Do you think I was just joking? Do you want to cooperate? But currently our company only manufactures liquid nitrogen and methane rockets. There's always a future, right? Can't I reserve the first place to order this bank card from you?" The other party has already made the request, so Zhang Chen naturally won't go against the money. He smiled and nodded, of course. The cooperation between them was achieved. Now it was Chen Jing's turn to be stunned. Her slightly dazed eyes wandered back and forth between Lu Xia and Zhang Chen. From the beginning, when Lu Xia said that the rocket she used in the practical class was bought from Zhang Chen Company, combining her understanding of Zhang Chen, she automatically attributed this to Lu Xia's excuse of helping Zhang Chen out of trouble. But now looking at their interaction, obviously the truth is not as simple as I imagined. "Xia, that rocket, could it be that Jinzi really made it?" When speaking, Chen Jing could hardly perceive her own voice. Even after seeing Lu Xia nod in affirmation, "My legs were a little weak, if there wasn't a handle beside me to support myself, I'm afraid he would stumble and fall to the ground right now." Looking at Zhang Chen in front of her, who was still smiling as ruffian as before, Chen Jing felt for the first time that she didn't recognize this old friend anymore. She knew Zhang Chen's talent in aerospace research before. But later, after something happened in his home, she was also worried that Zhang Chen would waste his skills. But now it seems that not only did he not waste his talent, but he also became an even better person. Thinking of the hardships he had gone through in the past 2 years, Chen Jing couldn't help but have tears in her eyes. He raised his hand and slapped Jiang Chen's arm hard. You hit it well enough. You didn't even tell me. You're really good. I was worried that Huang Tian and the others would set a trap for you. As they talked, the three of them started laughing. I drove to the food stalls, we drank until 8 o'clock and then went home. Of course, Jiang Chen was the only male present. His task was to send the 2 girls home separately. It was also when I was sending Lu Xia home that I happened to meet Lu Yuanhang, who was walking in the yard. Seeing Lu Yuanhang appear in front of him, Jiang Chen was a little skeptical at first. But when I considered Lu Xia's family background, it all became clear. Dad? Shouldn't you be in a meeting at this time? I heard that you received a batch of goods last night. On the other side, Lu Yuanhang had never expected to meet Jiang Chen at his doorstep. A pair of eyes began to light up. The pace of my feet unconsciously increased a little. After standing in front of the two, he didn't even pay attention to his daughter. Boss Jiang, why are you here? Come in and have a seat. No need. I had a meal with Miss Lu and her friends. I sent her back safely, and my mission was completed. Jiang Chen waved his hands repeatedly. It won't take you long to go in and sit down. Don't bother me. I still have things to deal with in the company. Is that so? Well then, if that's the case, I won't keep Mr. Jiang here. Watching Jiang Chen's figure gradually going away, Lu Yuanhang couldn't help but sigh, tisk tisk tisk. Comparing yourself to others is really frustrating. What a great child. If he were my son, I would be so happy that I would fly off the spot. Turning around, he met a pair of resentful eyes, and then he noticed Lu Xia beside him. His mouth moved and his brain quickly searched for reasons. Hey, did you just say something to me? Lu Xia rolled her eyes silently. I asked you why you were still in the yard so late last night. Didn't you receive a batch of goods? Speaking of this matter, let me tell you, Jiang Chen is really not a simple person. Do you know who delivered the goods? An hour later, Jiang Chen took a taxi back to the company. When I went in, the lights in the company were still on. Hey? Why are you all here today? At this time in the past, everyone in the company except 01 would have automatically left work. Huang Ye got up and went to the tea room to pour a glass of water for Jiang Chen. The operation is quite skilled. Boss, you don't know that quite a few people placed orders with our company today. Wang Peng in the office stretched lazily. Yes, we are rushing to finish the work. I still have some orders to complete. Xiao Zhao and his friends went to the manufacturing room and started learning how to make models with the machine at noon. I don't know how they are doing now. Jiang Chen walked over, picked up the printed form and took a look. Eyebrows lightly raised. Yes, quite a few. Which ones are ticked? Wang Peng tilted his head and looked over. Oh, these are expedited and need to be delivered tomorrow afternoon. He nodded and handed over the form. You will learn how to use those machines once you learn them. Just take a break. Okay. Thank you, boss. Jiang Chen, who was about to step into the office, raised his hand and waved. Just stepped in, a system prompt sounded in my mind. Ding dong. Liquid nitrogen methane rocket with ground attack capability is now manufactured. Consume 700 technology points. The system will automatically deduct them in 10 seconds. 700? At first Jiang Chen thought he had misheard. After checking, I found that the system has been upgraded to level 3, with rewards added. The technology points required to manufacture many equipment have been reduced. The liquid nitrogen methane rocket even dropped to 598 points. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen jumped up excitedly. Then I can easily make 100 rockets, right? You can even give it attack skills. Chapter 75. Check the reward information in the backpack. Jiang Chen realized that combined with the remaining amount of technology points of 46,124 last time, the remaining technology points in his backpack now reached 76,124 points. After the inventor upgrade and all-round performance improvement, even if one manufactures 100 liquid nitrogen methane rockets with attack skills, there will still be 6124 technology points left. In this case, the technology points to build 100 rockets are enough. Ding dong. Content forwarded from V-Blog, providing a shock value of 3500000. Content forwarded from WeChat Moments, providing a shock value of 2870000. Content forwarded from a certain hand or a certain audio, providing a shock value of 6840000. These system prompts echoed in my mind one after another. Jiang Chen's blood boiled after hearing this. Even my breathing became rapid. After all, if it is converted into technology points according to the system's 1:1000 ratio, but these can be exchanged for 13210 technology points. Ding. The host's current technology points are 89334. A total of more than 89,000 technology points have been accumulated. For Jiang Chen, this is a treasure that is even more valuable than the money deposited into his bank card. With these, let alone liquid nitrogen methane rockets with attack skills, even higher technology, as long as he exchanges it within the system, he can make it. Ding-a-ling. Just then, a cell phone suddenly rang. Jiang Chen, who was sitting on the roller skating office chair, tilted his head to look at the desk, and with a sudden force on his feet, he slid over there. When the call was connected, he responded briskly without caring who the caller was. Hello, this is the office of Jianglin Technology Company, I am Jiang Chen. Mr. Wang on the opposite side took the phone from his ear with confusion and looked at the notes. I whispered to myself, I didn't make a mistake. What good news makes you so happy? Have you already calculated that our approval payment has come down? Hearing the voice, Zhang Chen was stunned. So fast? Isn't it said that the approval process is complicated? It's only been a few hours. He subconsciously expressed his doubts without thinking about anything else. Ha ha ha, you don't know this. Mr. Chen and I each have the power to make important decisions once and for all to apply directly to our superiors for approval. His had already been used up before, but luckily I still have mine, otherwise this time, it definitely wouldn't have been so smooth. Mr. Wang on the other end of the phone looked very proud when he spoke. He even did not forget to show off by winking at Mr. Chen who was silently listening to their conversation beside him. Humph, if I hadn't used my chance, you wouldn't have had the chance to stand up to Zhang Chen this time. The more he talked, the more depressed Mr. Chen became. He raised his head and drank the tea in the cup in his hand. A small cup of tea actually made him look like he was ready to drink. Here, Mr. Wang quietly waited for Zhang Chen's praise. But there was silence over there. The smile on his face suddenly stopped. He swallowed hard and asked tentatively, Zhang Chen? Are you listening? The approval money has been received. Why don't you come and sign the contract when you have time? Zhang Chen looked at the light blue system screen in front of him and frowned. When making things for the country, we naturally have to be the best. After thinking for a moment, he immediately rejected it. No, we can't just sign it like this. Since Elder Wang, Elder Chen and others were not in front of Zhang Chen, they could not see the righteous words on his face. I immediately thought that Zhang Chen was going to go back on his word. Several people's hearts suddenly began to twitch violently. Standing up hurriedly, Mr. Chen, Ji Yun, Su Zheng and Zhou Hongbin from the laboratory building all gathered around Mr. Wang. Everyone present knows how precious the power to directly approve is. Let's not talk about how cumbersome and troublesome it would be if the approval process followed the normal process. The power of priority approval given to Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen alone is extremely precious. Especially in Long Institute, there are many urgent projects, but Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen have never thought of activating their privileges to speed up the approval. But yesterday when they proposed to Zhang Chen to build 100 rockets, the mind automatically associates it with priority. After Zhang Chen left Long Institute, Mr. Wang called his superior without any hesitation. After explaining the cause and effect of the matter, the application was approved immediately. When I think of countries like the Eagle Sauce, which are still in the process of exploring liquid nitrogen methane rockets, while Dragon Country is about to have 100 liquid nitrogen methane rockets, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep the whole night. But now Zhang Chen said that he couldn't sign the contract. Doesn't that mean that the power he has used is about to be abolished? This is not the worst. If we investigate the above, then the responsibility must be borne by the Long Institute. By then, even the original privilege of Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen every 5 years will be completely revoked. The gain is not worth the loss. Sensing the tense mood of the crowd, Mr. Wang also consciously turned on the hands-free button on his mobile phone and placed the phone in the middle of the desktop. Zhang Chen, if your company has any difficulties in manufacturing and production, please let us know. Let's solve it together. It's not a difficult task. If we can't finish it in 5 years, we can take 10. Yes, Zhang Chen, as long as we work together, there will be no hurdle that we cannot overcome. Through the phone, Zhang Chen could hear the anxiety and panic of the people on the other end. He smiled faintly, I have already decided on this matter. I will go to Long Academy to meet with you and discuss the specific details. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Chen couldn't wait to hand over the order for 100 liquid nitrogen methane rockets with attack capabilities to everyone at the Dragon Science Institute. I don't know if they can handle this surprise. What Zhang Chen didn't know was that he had a nice idea. The office of Kulin Institute of Science was already shrouded in dark clouds. Everyone sat on the sofa with their heads down, feeling depressed. Looking at the administrative printed contract on the desk, it is a bit dazzling. Take it down first, it makes me upset. What should we do now? Zhang Chen has refused. How can we explain this to our superiors? Su Zheng said sternly, I've already said that you should discuss this matter with Zhang Chen before submitting your application. Faced with Su Zheng's scolding, the others did not dare to refute, and had no reason to refute. After all, they collectively over-agreed on this matter. What should I do? I can only wait for Zhang Chen to come and try to save the relationship. You. Su Zheng let out a long sigh and stood in front of the French window with his hands behind his back. He wandered back and forth in the office from time to time. Half an hour later, the office door opened. Zhang Chen discovered that the air pressure in the room was extremely low, especially after several people saw him open the door. They rushed up like a swarm of bees. Zhang Chen, is there really no room for negotiation on this matter? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.